Chapter 28. Hidden Loss. How could Alliance Master Sword 1 be on par with the Marquis of 3 This, Elder Tong, Great Divine Master Ju Xian, and other experts from the Sword Alliance were all shocked. After all, they had witnessed the battle between Jian Wushuang and the Marquis of 3 more than a year ago. Although the Marquis of 3 could not defeat Jian Wushuang in the end, it was obvious that the Marquis of 3 was much stronger than Jian Wushuang in terms of strength. Jian Wushuang had only relied on his body protection ability to survive the Marquis of 3 But now, Jian Wushuang was on par with the Marquis of 3 in just over a year? How could he have improved so much in just over a year? No wonder Mr. Sword 1 dared to accept the challenge. It turns out that he was already confident. Yin Suer, Yun Shan, and the others stood there, looking at the scene on the battlefield with a pleasant surprise. Jian Wushuang, who was fighting wildly with the Marquis of 3 in the middle of the battlefield, was not very satisfied with the situation in front of him. The Marquis of 3 is indeed an invincible divine master. I controlled the reincarnation sword formation and fought him with space-time swordsmanship. He was still suppressed by my domain, but in the end, I was only on par with him. A draw is not what I want. Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. He agreed to fight the Marquis of 3 in front of the two armies, because he had absolute confidence in his strength, and knew that he was strong enough to fight the Marquis of 3 now. Secondly, he had the same idea as the Marquis of 3 He also wanted to defeat the Marquis of 3 in front of the experts of the Heavenly Void Palace, which would bring a certain blow to the experts of the Heavenly Void Palace. It was obviously not enough for them to fight to a draw. Let's not talk about defeating the Marquis of 3 first. At least I have to let him suffer some losses. Jian Wushuang made up his mind, and his eyes immediately flashed with a fierce light. He was just relying on his swordsmanship to compete with the Marquis of 3 in speed. But suddenly, Jian Wushuang's sword momentum changed. An invisible sword essence burst out. He just casually swung his sword, looking like an ordinary person slashing a wooden sword. However, when he swung his long sword, a sword light immediately lit up. This sword light was extremely weak, extremely dim, and incomplete. It was an incomplete light, a remnant light. However, when this remnant light appeared, in the blink of an eye, there were hundreds and thousands of scattered lights in the world. Under the eyes of many experts on the battlefield, the original Jian Wushuang suddenly became hundreds and thousands of people. It was the 8th move of space-time swordsmanship, thousand-sided residual light. Ultimate skill? Seeing the residual light coming toward him, the Marquis of 3's eyes turned cold. He suddenly stretched out his right hand. It was still the divine claw, but this claw was also faster. Bang! A crisp sound rang out. The ray of light that Jian Wushuang used was caught by the Marquis of 3's right claw. After catching it, Jian Wushuang's expression did not change. Not far from him, the black divine sword formed by 18 underworld blood swords pierced through again. Their speed and power were extremely powerful. Annoying thing, get away from me! The Marquis of 3 growled, trying to push back the sword formation. However, at this moment, Jian Wushuang pointed his index finger at a distance. Buzz, buzz, a majestic power of space-time rule swept out immediately. Space-time divine skill, 1-point divine skill. Jian Wushuang had not used this move when he was fighting the Marquis of 3 before, but now he had suddenly used it. This time, there was no sign of it, and the Marquis of 3 was not vigilant, but he sensed that the power of space-time rule had already taken effect. In an instant, the space-time around the Marquis of 3 froze. The Marquis of 3 himself immediately froze and lost the ability to resist. However, the Marquis of 3 was, after all, a powerful invincible divine master. Although Jian Wushuang's comprehension of the space-time rule was extremely high, his divine power was still inferior. The heaven-designated skill he was using now, it was indeed very useful for a peak great divine master. But it was not very effective for an invincible divine master like the Marquis of 3 The Marquis of 3 was frozen for only a moment, which was very short. When he came back to his senses, the black divine sword had only just appeared in front of him. Although he was caught off guard, the Marquis of 3 was still able to block it. Get lost! With a loud shout, the Marquis of 3 swung his claw. Clang! The blood-red claw collided with the black divine sword. After all, the Marquis of 3 was caught off guard. He did not exert his full strength, but he was at an absolute disadvantage in this collision. Humph! The Marquis of 3 even let out a muffled groan, and his body was forced back. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang could not help but smile. Although the collision did not cause much damage to the Marquis of 3 he still made the Marquis of 3 suffer a hidden loss, and made him a little embarrassed. This little embarrassment was enough for Jian Wushuang. On the side of the battlefield, the experts of the Heavenly Void Palace had been watching the battle attentively. When they saw that Jian Wushuang could fight with the Marquis of 3 they were already very surprised. But now they saw Jian Wushuang force the Marquis of 3 to retreat. And judging from the Marquis of 3's expression, it was obvious that he had suffered a hidden loss. This made the experts of the Heavenly Void Temple look very strange. At the front of the experts, the commander of the Heavenly Void Army was also a little pale. He had asked the Marquis of 3 to fight, because he wanted the Marquis of 3 to defeat Sword One directly, which would cause a certain blow to the morale of the experts of the Pil Sun Sacred World. But now, after the battle, the morale of the experts of the Pil Sun Sacred World did not suffer a blow. On the contrary, it had increased quite a lot. On the other hand, the experts from their Heavenly Void Palace camp were more or less unhappy when they saw that the Marquis of 3 had suffered a hidden loss. It could be said that he had stolen the chicken but failed. There is no need to waste time. Let's directly act. The expression of the commander of the Heavenly Void Army sank. His majestic voice sounded across the entire ice plains. Heavenly Void Army, move out. Following the command of the Heavenly Void Army's commander, the Heavenly Void Army, whose expression was filled with solemnness and killing intent, immediately moved out. It was not just the Heavenly Void Army. The great divine masters from the Heavenly Void Palace also rushed out at the same time. On the Heavenly Void Realm's side, there were nearly 160 great divine masters. In addition to the many heavenly divine masters within the Heavenly Void Army, they were like wasps as they directly rushed over. Seeing this scene, the gazes of the experts from the Pil Sun Sacred Realm also turned cold. Chapter 28-29. The slaughter has begun. Everyone kill for the Pil Sun Sacred World. In Suer said in a cold but determined voice. The eyes of the experts from the Pil Sun Sacred World's camp turned scarlet. Kill! As a series of heaven-toppling battle cries sounded, the experts from the Pil Sun Sacred World's camp moved at the same time. The Pil Sun Sacred World had far more light wheel experts than the Heavenly Void Realm. After all, the Pil Sun Sacred World had many heavenly divine masters. These heavenly divine masters did not fight on their own. Instead, they formed battle formations and strategies. A battle formed by dozens of heavenly divine masters could also have the battle strength of great divine masters. With so many divine masters joining forces, it was also an extraordinary battle strength. The Pil Sun Sacred World knew very well that in terms of battle strength, there was too much of a gap between them and the other side. So they could only rely on these divine masters to form battle formations to make up for it. But even so, there was still a huge gap in battle strength between the two sides. In the blink of an eye, countless experts from both sides clashed head-on. Boom, 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 boom. A series of violent explosions reverberated in the sky and earth, and violent divine power exploded wantonly. The entire battlefield immediately became fiery hot. In the void at the center of the battlefield, Jian Wushuang and the Marquis of 3 were still engaged in a fierce battle. Although the Marquis of 3 had suffered a loss at the hands of Jian Wushuang, it was not a big deal. He could still fight evenly with Jian Wushuang. Humph, Sword One. I didn't expect that your strength had improved so much in just a year. Unfortunately, it's useless. You can't control this battle alone. You've been fighting in the inner sanctum for many years, and your strength has been weakened to the extreme. The experts gathered here can't compete with the army of our Heaven Void Palace. The difference is too great. Today's battle will be your defeat for sure. Ha ha, ha ha. The Marquis of 3 laughed wildly, and his laughter echoed in the surroundings. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. Although he had been fighting fiercely with the Marquis of 3 he still saw the surrounding scene clearly. Indeed, as the Marquis of 3 had said, the overall combat strength of the two camps was too far apart. Even if the experts of the Pil Sun sacred world tried their best to kill the enemy, the difference in combat strength could not be made up for. Especially at the level of the great deity, the Heavenly Void Temple had close to 160 people, more than 90 more than the Pil Sun sacred world. Moreover, the Heavenly Void army was well trained, and their combat strength was far from what the temporary Heavenly Divine army could compare with. This resulted in the Pil Sun sacred world being completely suppressed from the very beginning of this great battle. It could even be said to be completely suppressed. Kill! Kill! The soldiers of the Heavenly Void army all had solemn expressions. They were like machines. Under the leadership of their respective generals, they attacked in an orderly manner, splitting into 2 rounds of attacks. Their coordination was incomparably perfect, and their combat strength was unleashed to the extreme. Under the reckless attack of the Heavenly Void army, the battle formations formed by the divine masters of the Dan Yang Sacred World camp were easily shattered like paper. On the level of great divine masters of both sides, even if Yin Suer, Yin Shan, Elder Tong, and the other peak great divine masters tried their best, the opponent had more peak great divine masters. There were 15 of them, and they were also overwhelming. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang sighed secretly. He knew that he had to make a move. The Marquis of 3 get out of my way! Jian Wushuang shouted. The black divine sword condensed from 18 Netherblood divine swords stabbed wildly at the Marquis of 3's head, forcing him to defend himself. However, Jian Wushuang suddenly retreated. He stood firm in the void, and looked at the surrounding battlefield. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and then waved his hand. Swish! 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 Streams of flowing light flew out of Jian Wushuang's interspatial ring. These flowing lights were of different colors. Most of them were copper, followed by silver, and fewer were golden. These flowing lights condensed in the void around Jian Wushuang. In just a moment, more than 100 flowing lights, or more than 100 figures, appeared. As soon as these figures appeared, the tyrannical aura on their bodies burst out instantly. More than 100 tyrannical auras burst out at the same time. On the battlefield, the experts from both sides, who had been fighting fiercely and passionately, could not help but stop when they sensed the more than 100 tyrannical auras. Then one by one, they looked in Jian Wushuang's direction with shock and astonishment. What are those? Are they experts? No, they are lifeless. They should be corpse puppets. Corpse puppets? So many corpse puppets? Exclamations sounded in the center of the battlefield. The experts from the Holy Sundan World camp and the Heavenly Void Army camp were all stunned when they saw hundreds of lifeless figures suddenly appear around Jian Wushuang. Corpse puppets. Yes, the figures that suddenly appeared were all corpse puppets. But the point was that there were too many of them. There were hundreds of them. The most important thing was the powerful aura emitted by these corpse puppets. Even the weakest one was comparable to an ordinary senior great divine master, and the slightly stronger one was at the peak of the senior great divine master level. There were also 11 corpse puppets whose bodies were suffused with a faint golden light. Their divine power aura had even reached the peak great divine master level. An army. This was an incomparably powerful corpse puppet army, formed by over 100 corpse puppets. This. Everyone's eyes were wide open. They did not understand where this corpse puppet army came from. Only a small portion of them noticed the young figure in the middle, who was surrounded by many corpse puppets. Sword One, it's Sword One. These corpse puppets were all taken out by Sword One. How could he have so many corpse puppets? One voice after another sounded with fear. These terrified voices were naturally from experts from the Heaven Void World camp. As for the people from the Pil Sun Sacred World, they were all ecstatic. Especially Yin Suer, Yin Shan, Palace Master Xizhen and the others. They had seen Jian Wushuang's confident look, and had asked him about it. Jian Wushuang's answer was that he did have some tricks that he would use at the critical moment. At that time, they had half believed it and thought that Jian Wushuang's words might be just to boost the confidence of their camp. Even if Jian Wushuang had prepared a method, they did not think that his method was very powerful. But now, Chapter 2830. The corpse puppet army was dispatched. Corpse puppet army, let's kill them, Jian Wushuang said softly. Standing around Jian Wushuang, the hundreds of lifeless corpse puppets suddenly raised their heads and released a terrifying divine power aura. In the next moment, they turned into streams of light and charged toward the experts in the sky mirage like a pack of hungry wolves. The entire corpse puppet army was mobilized. This was the battle strength of more than 100 advanced Great Divine Masters. Even the battle strength of peak Great Divine Masters had 11 of them. This battle strength was too powerful. It was simply too tyrannical. The moment they entered the battlefield, they immediately changed the situation of the entire battlefield. Not good. Be careful. These corpse puppets. The expressions of the experts from the Heavenly Mirage World camp changed drastically. They originally had an absolute advantage and could even be said to be crushing. However, with these corpse puppets entering the battlefield, the situation was completely reversed in terms of Great Divine Master's battle strength. One had to know that the Heavenly Mirage World camp had less than 160 Great Divine Masters in total, and more than half of them were low-level Great Divine Masters. But now, the corpse puppet army was made up of high-level Great Divine Masters. The weakest was a high-level Great Divine Master, and there were also quite a few high-level peak Great Divine Masters. With such formidable combat strength, even without the Great Divine Masters of the Pill Sun Sacred World, the corpse puppet army alone should be enough to fight these Great Divine Masters of the Heavenly Void World. If the Pill Sun Sacred World had nearly 70 Great Divine Masters, the gap would be too great. It was even greater than the Heavenly Void World camp's advantage over the Pill Sun Sacred World camp. Kill them. Leave all these bastards of the Heavenly Void World behind. The experts of the Pill Sun Sacred World were all extremely excited when they saw such a powerful corpse puppet army join the battlefield as their own camp. The morale of the Pill Sun Sacred World camp also soared. Many experts also attacked with all their might. Together with the corpse puppet army, they began to crush the Heavenly Void World camp. Damn it! Sword 1. Where did he get so many corpse puppets? These corpse puppets are too troublesome. Chen Kong's face was gloomy in the Heavenly Ethereal Realms camp. He had already fought with a golden-armored corpse puppet. This golden-armored corpse puppet was naturally not his opponent in a one-on-one fight. However, there were too many corpse puppets around, which made him feel even more troubled. And at this moment a blood-colored figure suddenly appeared in front of him. That blood-colored figure clenched his fist once again, and blood clouds rolled down. A huge fist directly smashed towards Chen Kong's face. Chen Kong was shocked, but he was not afraid at all. He similarly swung his fist, wanting to block that blood-colored figure's fist head-on. Bang! The two fists collided head-on. At the moment of collision, the sound of bones cracking was immediately heard. Chen Kong was frightened. This power. Chen Kong looked at the blood-red figure in front of him. He did not expect the power contained in the blood-red figure's fist to be so terrifying. When the fist collided with the bones in his right arm exploded. A terrifying power even passed through his arm and directly into his divine body. Pooh! Chen Kong's divine body trembled, and he immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. His body also shot backward in a sorry state. At the same time, he let out a fierce shout. Invincible Divine Master! It's a corpse puppet at the level of Invincible Divine Master. Chen Kong's shout was incomparably loud and clear, reverberating throughout the entire battlefield. The many experts who were frantically fighting on the battlefield all heard this shout. In an instant, many gazes locked onto the blood-colored figure. The blood-colored figure was similarly lifeless. Clearly, it was also a corpse puppet. However, they had already noticed that although it was also a corpse puppet, the aura emitted by this blood-colored corpse puppet was far more powerful than those golden-armored corpse puppets. There was no doubt that this was indeed a corpse puppet at the level of an invincible divine master. Damn it! There are even corpse puppets at the level of an invincible divine master. The Heavenly Void Army commander's expression changed drastically, and he could not help but curse in his heart. Just the corpse puppet army made up of copper-armored, silver-armored, and golden-armored corpse puppets had put them at a peerless disadvantage when they entered the battlefield. They had even been completely crushed. In the end, this corpse puppet army, there was even a blood-armored corpse puppet at the level of an invincible divine master. After all, an invincible divine master was far superior to many great divine masters. He could slaughter a great divine master, or even a great divine master at the peak, all by himself. The Marquis of 3 was the only invincible divine master present in the heavenly void world. Jian Wushuang, who was on par with the Marquis of 3 in the Pil Sun sacred world, naturally had invincible divine masters' combat strength. Since the beginning of the battle, the two invincible divine masters had only been able to keep each other in check. However, if either side suddenly made a move, it would be a disaster for the experts of the other side. But now, the Marquis of 3 and Jian Wushuang were both still in a stalemate. Neither side could make a move, but the Pil Sun sacred world had one more invincible divine master, Swish. On the battlefield, the blood-red corpse puppet rampaged through the crowd, wantonly attacking the experts of the heavenly void world. The blood-red corpse puppet was not good at speed, but it was extremely powerful. Its fists kept striking out. The terrifying power contained in those fists was enough to easily kill an advanced divine master, and a peak divine master would be severely injured by it. Although they could not die, they would still be heavily injured. Bang! 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 One fist after another was blasted out. In the blink of an eye, a total of 11 great divine masters of the heavenly void army had died at the hands of this blood-colored corpse puppet, and 2 peak great divine masters had been heavily injured by it. It was unstoppable. No one could stop the blood-colored corpse puppet's footsteps. He rampaged through the crowd and massacred wantonly. This made the battlefield, which was already tilted toward the Pil Sun sacred world, even more so. The commander of the heavenly void army also joined in the battle. As he fought, he was also constantly concerned about the changes in the situation on the battlefield. The situation in front of him was naturally seen by the commander of the heavenly void army. This corpse puppet army is too powerful. With the existence of that blood-armored corpse puppet, their overall combat power is much stronger than our camp. Our camp has suffered heavy losses from the battle until now, and we are on the verge of defeat. If we continue to fight fiercely, we will only lose more experts. The commander of the heavenly void army narrowed his eyes. Soon, he made up his mind. Those who belong to the heavenly oasis retreat. All of you retreat. Chapter 28:31 Wins. Retreat, quickly retreat. As soon as the commander of the heavenly void army gave the order, the experts of the heavenly void realm camp immediately began to retreat like a tide. Naturally, the people of the Pil Sun sacred world were unrelenting. They seized the opportunity to pursue and kill. In the center of the battlefield, Jian Wushuang and the Marquis of 3 were fighting head-on. Neither side could do anything to the other. However, they were aware of the situation around them. They lost. The Marquis of 3 was in disbelief, but his eyes were staring at Jian Wushuang coldly. Sword One, you have good skills. You control such a powerful corpse puppet army. I want to know where you got these corpse puppets. The Marquis of 3 said coldly. It has nothing to do with you, Marquis 3 right? Jian Wushuang said coldly. That's true. Even though I know you may have some secrets, I can't do anything to you with my strength. But don't be proud. I can't do anything to you. But my palace master has many ways to deal with you. Although you won the battle today, sooner or later, my palace master will come back. We'll see if you can resist him. The Marquis of 3 said with a cold smile. His body had also floated backward. You want to leave? Jian Wushuang's eyes turned cold. He did not intend to let the Marquis of 3 leave so easily. He immediately rushed toward the Marquis of 3 and pursued him. But unfortunately, The four domains were still pressing on the Marquis of Three Ean's body. He was defeated. The heavenly void world had been completely defeated, and many experts were fleeing frantically. As for the experts from the Pill Sun Sacred World, was doing its best to chase after the experts from the heavenly void world. They wanted to retain as many experts from the heavenly void world as possible. This chase continued for a full 15 minutes. The Pill Sun Sacred World finally came to a halt after chasing for a very long distance. They were still on the vast ice plains. In the air, many experts from the Pill Sun Sacred World were gathered there. As for the experts from the heavenly void world camp, they had already left far away. As for the experts from the Pill Sun Sacred World camp, they were chasing after them. Corpses were left everywhere along the way. At this moment, these experts from the Pill Sun Sacred World were floating in the void. Yet, all of them had incomparably excited expressions. We've won! We've won this battle! The Pill Sun Sacred World has defended. The many experts were incomparably excited and delighted in their hearts. At the same time that they were excited and delighted, many gazes could not help but look towards the void at the very front. It was a young man in a golden robe who held a sword in one hand. Many corpse puppets were surrounding the golden-robed young man. All the experts of the Pill Sun Sacred World looked at this person with respect and admiration. They all knew that the Pill Sun Sacred World could win this battle because of this person. Sword 1, the publicly acknowledged strongest expert of the Pill Sun Sacred World. In this battle, he fought head-on with the invincible Divine Master, the Marquis of Three Ean. They were evenly matched, and even suffered a slight loss. However, this strength was once again affirmed. There was no doubt about the invincible Divine Master. Apart from his personal strength, the strength he possessed also shocked everyone. Previously, they had all thought that their side would definitely lose this battle. However, in the end, this Sword 1 had actually brought out a powerful corpse puppet army. The corpse puppet army completely obeyed his orders, because a powerful corpse puppet army had joined them. This completely changed the situation on the battlefield. The corpse puppet army was too powerful. Such a powerful force was completely controlled by Sword 1 alone. Awe. Everyone was full of awe toward Jian Wushuang. Even Yin Suer had a trace of awe toward Jian Wushuang. There was no other way. Jian Wushuang was too powerful now. He was stronger than everyone in the Pill Sun Sacred World, and the power in his hands was enough to sweep across the entire Pill Sun Sacred World. Although she was the Lord of Crimson Rock Castle, and was in control of the Pill Sun Sacred World on the surface, she asked herself that if Jian Wushuang wanted to, he could easily take away her authority as the controller. Sword 1. Yin Suer narrowed her beautiful eyes and looked at Jian Wushuang with a complicated expression. At this time, Jian Wushuang had put the corpse puppets back into his interspatial ring. After putting the entire corpse puppet army into his interspatial ring, he flashed and appeared beside Yin Suer. Lord Suer, how are our casualties? Jian Wushuang asked. More than 10 great divine masters have died, and more than 1,000 divine masters have died. However, compared to the loss of the heavenly void world, our side is perfect, Yin Suer said. She was telling the truth. The heavenly void world had suffered heavy losses in this battle. Previously, because of the appearance of the corpse puppet army, the situation had been reversed, and many experts had been killed. Later, in the 15 minutes of pursuit, more experts from the heavenly void world camp had died. Although there were no detailed statistics, they estimated that, in this battle, more than 60 great divine masters from the heavenly void realm camp had died. The heavenly void army had also suffered heavy losses, and many of those great divine masters had also died. Compared to the losses of the heavenly void realm camp, the experts from the Pill Sun Sacred World had indeed been very lucky. The main reason is that you brought out the corpse puppet army. If it weren't for the corpse puppet army, our Pill Sun Sacred World would have been in danger in this battle. Yin Suer sighed softly, then she asked, Mr. Sword 1, how come you have such a powerful corpse puppet army? Yin Suer was very curious about this question. She was not the only one. Many Pill Sun Sacred World experts, including Elder Tong and Great Divine Master Ju Xian, were also very curious. After all, There were hundreds of corpse puppets, the weakest of which was an advanced divine master. The corpse puppet army was enough to sweep across the entire Pil Sun sacred world. They wanted to know how Jian Wushuang had obtained such a powerful force. Well, I can't tell you about it. Anyway, I got lucky. Jian Wushuang smiled and laughed. He was the only one who knew about the secret realm, so naturally he could not tell others where it was. Seeing that Jian Wushuang did not want to say more, Yin Suer and the others did not ask further. In any case, the Pil Sun sacred world won this battle. Yin Suer smiled. We've won. We've won. The people around them were also overjoyed. After a long while, Yin Suer said loudly, "Everyone clean up the battlefield carefully. After that we'll go to Crimson Rock Castle together. I've already ordered people to prepare a banquet there. So today, our Crimson Rock Castle will celebrate with everyone here." Chapter 2832. Yin Suer's Ecstasy. After the battle ended, Yin Suer held a huge banquet in Crimson Rock Castle. The number of experts participating in the banquet was extremely large, and it was extremely lively and noisy. And the main character of this banquet, apart from Crimson Rock Castle, was naturally the Sword Alliance. In fact, during the banquet, the Sword Alliance's limelight had completely overshadowed Crimson Rock Castle. Everyone had already noticed this, but they were not surprised. This was because everyone knew that the current Pil Sun sacred world still seemed to be under the control of Crimson Rock Castle. All the factions had already submitted to Crimson Rock Castle, but in reality, there was another faction in the Pil Sun sacred world that was even stronger than Crimson Rock Castle. This faction was the Sword Alliance. Everyone who participated in the battle with the Heavenly Void world knew this. However, the experts of the Sacred Sundan world could not figure out what Jian Wushuang had done. After all, the Sword Alliance was now stronger than the Crimson Rock Castle. Jian Wushuang alone was enough to sweep across the entire Sacred Sundan world. Under such circumstances, the Sword Alliance could completely replace the Crimson Rock Castle and become the new ruler of the Pil Sun sacred world. However, judging from their previous performance, the Sword Alliance did not seem to have such a plan. To be exact, it was Jian Wushuang who did not have such a plan. At the banquet, countless experts toasted Jian Wushuang, and at the same time, there were all kinds of compliments. Jian Wushuang only responded with a few words. After a day and a night, the banquet finally ended, and everyone dispersed. In an exquisite attic, there were two tables facing each other. Jian Wushuang and Yin Suer sat there, and on the tables were wine and fruits. Besides the two of them, there was no third person in the attic, and the entire attic was covered by a restriction. "Mr. Sword 1, you helped me to eliminate the internal strife in Crimson Rock Castle and the threat brought by the four top forces, allowing Crimson Rock Castle to regain control of the Sacred Sundan world. This time, you helped me defeat the army of the Heavenly Void world, allowing the Sacred Sundan world and Crimson Rock Castle to be preserved. I, Yin Suer, will definitely remember this great favor. Let me toast to you." Yin Suer raised her wine glass. "Alliance Master Suer, you are too kind. I was just entrusted by someone to be loyal to him." Jian Wushuang smiled. "In Saint Tomb, I promised Saint Crimson Rock that I would help you solve your predicament. Naturally, I will do my best to help you. Father's vision is indeed unparalleled. At that time, I could see that you have great strength and will definitely be able to help me in the future." Yin Suer smiled and said, "In fact, I have agreed to 2 conditions of St. Crimson Stone to help you solve the crisis that Crimson Stone Castle is facing." Jian Wushuang suddenly said, "Oh, what is the other condition?" Yin Suer asked. "The other condition is that I will try my best to help you break through to the Immortal Saint realm," Jian Wushuang said. "What?" Yin Suer was stunned for a moment, but then she smiled bitterly. "Father, you think too much. It's very difficult for an immortal saint to be born in a saint world. Father was able to break through because of great opportunities and good fortune. Although I have some potential, it's not easy for me to break through to become an immortal saint. Besides, if you want to break through from a peak great divine master to an immortal saint, you have to rely on your own efforts. Mr. Sword 1, although you are strong and powerful, it's difficult for you to help me. Your father asked me to try my best to think of a way for you. After all, without a real immortal saint in the vast holy world, it won't last long, Jian Wushuang said. Upon hearing this, Yin Suer nodded secretly. It was true that there was an immortal saint in each of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. It was because there was no immortal saint that the Pil Sun sacred world became the weakest and faced the danger of being destroyed. If there was an immortal saint, as long as the immortal saint did not die, the Pil Sun sacred world would not be so weak. The condition of Saint Crimson Rock is indeed a bit harsh for me, but I still agreed to it. Moreover, I was lucky. I just got something recently that will be of great help to me in breaking through to the immortal saint realm, Jian Wushuang said. What is it? Yin Suer immediately looked over. Jian Wushuang flipped his hand, and a cyan elixir the size of an adult thumb appeared in his hand. This is... Yin Suer looked at the cyan elixir in confusion. She had seen many elixirs in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, but she did not recognize this cyan elixir. This elixir is called the Saint Opening Elixir. Have you heard of it? Jian Wushuang asked. Saint Opening Elixir? Yin Suer frowned, apparently thinking. After a while, she suddenly raised her head and looked at the cyan elixir in astonishment. Saint Ascension Elixir. Is this the legendary Saint Ascension Elixir? Yin Suer's voice became extremely excited. There was nothing she could do. This Saint Ascension Elixir was too shocking to her. It was true that she had never seen the Saint Ascension Elixir before, but she had heard of it before. It was a legendary elixir that could help those peak great divine masters, who had been stuck at a bottleneck for a very long time breakthrough to the level of the immortal saint. It was said that as long as a peak great divine master, who was well prepared, had a little bit of potential, the chances of breaking through to the level of the immortal saint after consuming this Saint Ascension Elixir would be 30%. A 30% chance of breaking through was enough to drive any great divine master, including those invincible divine masters who stood at the top, crazy. Unfortunately, the level of this Saint Ascension Elixir was too high, and it was too difficult to refine it. At the very least, no one in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow could refine such an elixir. Not to mention the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Even in the surrounding areas of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, there was probably no one who could refine such an elixir. Those who were qualified to refine the Saint Ascension Elixir were definitely top-grade alchemists. Alchemists of that level could only be found in the core 3rd heaven of the absolute beginning divine realm. As for those outside the 3rd heaven, they were almost impossible to find. Therefore, the Saint Ascension Elixir was definitely legendary outside the 3rd heaven. It was extremely difficult to see one on a normal day. Even in the 3rd heaven, the Saint Ascension Elixir was also very difficult to obtain. But now, Jian Wushuang actually took out a Saint Ascension Elixir and placed it in front of her. Mr. Sword 1, is this really the Saint Ascension Elixir? Yin Suer's voice was trembling. It's the real one. Jian Wushuang smiled. In fact, he did not know the Saint Ascension Elixir before, but since it came from Elder Gu in the secret realm, it must be true. Chapter 2833. Sword League's position. Looking at the Saint Ascension Elixir in front of her, Yin Suer's eyes immediately became extremely hot. I promised Saint Crimson Rock that I would try my best to help you break through, and this Saint Ascension Elixir is the limit of what I can do. As for whether you can really break through to the immortal saint realm after obtaining the Saint Ascension Elixir, it depends on your own luck and luck. It has nothing to do with me, Jian Wushuang said. Then he waved his hand and threw the elixir to Yin Suer. Yin Suer took the elixir, but her mind was in a daze. Mr. Sword 1, are you sure you want to give this elixir to me? Yin Suer was in disbelief. The Saint Ascension Elixir was such a precious treasure. She believed that if the news of the Saint Ascension Elixir spread, the entire Golden Crow 9 realms would be shocked. Countless top-tier great divine masters, including a few invincible divine masters, would immediately rush to Pil Sun's sacred world to fight for it. The elixir was of great use to the great divine master, but Jian Wushuang gave such a precious elixir to her? After all, Jian Wushuang was only a great divine master now. He would try to break through to the immortal saint realm sooner or later. The elixir would be of great use to him, right? Mr. Sword One, don't you need the Saint Ascension elixir in the future? Yin Suer could not help asking. My situation is a bit special, so the elixir won't help me much. Besides, if I meet the requirements to become an immortal saint, I can easily make a breakthrough even without the elixir, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. What he said was the truth. His potential was too great, far beyond Yin Suer's imagination. Previously, he had relied on the elixir and primordial stone to improve his realm. As long as he had enough divine power, he could easily make a breakthrough without any obstacles. The reason why he could do this was that he had too much potential. As long as he met the conditions, he could easily break through his level. If it were other experts, even if all the conditions had been met, there would still be some twists and turns in breaking through. Some might even encounter bottlenecks, but Jian Wushuang did not. He did not know how to break through from the divine master level to the immortal saint level, nor did he know how to break through from the great divine master level to the immortal saint level. In addition to the uniqueness of the perfect chaotic creature, he really did not need it. In that case, I'll take it. Thank you, Mr. Sword One, Yin Suer said gratefully. You're welcome. After all, your father, Saint Crimson Rock, has already paid you. Jian Wushuang smiled and said, Oh, there's one more thing I need to tell you. What is it? Yin Suer asked. You're the ruler of Crimson Rock Castle. You should be more aware of the situation in the Pil Sun sacred world than I am. Although Crimson Rock Castle has regained control of the Pil Sun sacred world, there is still a special existence in the Pil Sun sacred world, which is the Sword Alliance, Jian Wushuang said. Hearing this, Yin Suer's expression changed slightly. She already knew what Jian Wushuang wanted to say. That was the position of the Sword Alliance. The Sword Alliance had been an ally of Crimson Rock Castle until now. It could even be said that Crimson Rock Castle had relied on something to a great extent. By relying on Jian Wushuang, the prestige of the Sword Alliance had surpassed that of Crimson Rock Castle to a certain extent. Especially in the battle with the Heavenly Void World, it was Jian Wushuang who had turned the tables. Moreover, Jian Wushuang's personal strength and the strength of the corpse puppet army under his control had been proven. As for the position of the Sword Alliance, which controlled such a powerful force in the Pil Sun sacred world, was it to stand on equal footing with Crimson Rock Castle and share the Pil Sun sacred world? Or would the Sword Alliance be willing to live under Crimson Rock Castle? Or, it was possible for Jian Wushuang to directly step forward and replace the Crimson Rock Castle. It could be said that the current situation of the Pil Sun sacred world and the survival of the Crimson Rock Castle were actually in Jian Wushuang's hands. It was up to him to decide. Yin Suer also knew this, so she had always been very humble to Jian Wushuang and never took the initiative to expose this matter. After all, the Redstone Castle was in a weak position, and once it was exposed, the risks it had to take, Yin Suer could not afford it. But now, Jian Wushuang took the initiative to talk about this matter. The Sword Alliance is too special in the Pil Sun sacred world. Many forces and countless experts are watching our Sword Alliance. Although I have restricted the experts under the Sword Alliance so that they cannot expand, there is no room for two tigers on a mountain. If this continues, there will be trouble sooner or later. I believe that the experts in your Crimson Rock Castle are also wary of our Sword Alliance, right? Jian Wushuang said. Yes, there is. Yin Suer nodded slightly. There are a few experts in Crimson Rock Castle who have warned me about the Sword Alliance many times. They even suggested sending some experts to infiltrate the Sword Alliance. However, I rejected them. I completely believe in you, Mr. Sword One. Completely? Jian Wushuang looked at Yin Suer with interest and then smiled. Well, actually, I'm not interested in creating a powerful force in the Pil Sun sacred world or the Nine Realms Golden Crow worlds. My ambition is far beyond the Nine Realms Golden Crow worlds. As soon as I'm strong enough, I'll leave here and go to a more vast place. As for the Sword Alliance, I created it to help you as much as possible. I had good intentions, but I didn't expect that the situation would stabilize and become a threat to Crimson Rock Castle. Now many people in the Sword Alliance also want to destroy Crimson Rock Castle and replace it. Insur was shocked. Don't worry, I've suppressed these people for the time being. As long as I stay in the Golden Crow 9 realms, no one in the Sword Alliance will dare to disobey my orders. But if I leave the Golden Crow 9 realms and go somewhere else, it might not be the case, Jian Wushuang said with a faint smile. So, I need you to give me some time. Time? Insur was puzzled. I need some time, but I don't know how long it will take. At least a few decades, at most 100 years. I will continue to stay in the Golden Crow 9 realms for these years, and I will find a new territory for the Sword Alliance. By that time, the Sword Alliance will go to that territory, and naturally, there will be no friction with Crimson Rock Castle. Jian Wushuang smiled. But are the experts of the Sword Alliance willing to go there? Insur asked with a frown. If it's the same size, most of the experts of the Sword Alliance wouldn't want to go there. But what if it's very big? Jian Wushuang said with a strange smile. Chapter 2834. 300,000 inch of very big territory? How big is it? Insur asked. A world, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Insur was stunned and said in surprise. Mr. Sword One, do you mean to lead the Sword Union to attack a world? Yes, I do, but I don't know if it can be realized, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Knowing what Jian Wushuang was thinking, Insur could not help but sigh in her heart. There were 9 realms in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. In addition to the Pil Sun Sacred World, the other 8 realms had the Immortal Saint personally overseeing them. Their overall strength was also very strong. Although the Sword Alliance now had the ability to wipe out the entire Pil Sun Sacred World, it was just an extravagant hope to attack other realms, right? However, Insur had witnessed Jian Wushuang's growth. She had seen him rise from a peak great divine master to the strongest expert in the Pil Sun Sacred World. And he had the terrifying power to wipe out the entire Pil Sun Sacred World. It had only taken him less than 100 years. It was incredible. He had achieved this in less than 100 years. If he was given another 100 years, he might still have the ability to conquer the next realm. Let's not talk about this for now. Jian Wushuang waved his hand. Castle Lord Sewer, I once asked you to sell the Blood Wilderness Emperor Essence, which weighed 230 kilograms. I heard from Palace Master Sijin that you sold it to Lord Mo, who is said to be the #1 blacksmith in the Golden Crow 9 realms. Yes, Insur nodded. It's true that Master Mo is the #1 blacksmith in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. His refining level is at least at the top of the 7th grade. No one in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow can compare to him, and he has a good reputation. When I sold the Blood Wilderness Emperor Essence to him, I sold it at a very good price, which made me a big profit. In that case, you must know how to contact Master Mo. Can you contact him for me? Jian Wushuang asked. Why? Does Mr. Sword One need Lord Mo for something? Insur looked at him. To tell you the truth, it's my magic weapon. I need Lord Mo to help me refine it again, Jian Wushuang said. Naturally, he was looking for Lord Mo for the Blood Mountain Sword. The Blood Mountain Sword was his natal magic weapon. As his strength increased, the power of the Blood Mountain Sword also increased. However, the Blood Mountain Sword was given to him by his master Xian. When it was forged, it did not contain the blood essence of his perfect chaotic life form. So the huge potential hidden in the Blood Mountain Sword had not been fully unleashed yet. Back in the Sorcerer Desert region, he had asked that 4th grade blacksmith Master Kuan to help him forge the golden armor. But it was a pity that Master Kuan did not have the ability to reforge the Blood Mountain Sword. Moreover, he had told him at the time that he had to be at least a 7th grade blacksmith. Only then did he have the qualification to refine the Blood Mountain Sword again. He had been paying attention to Master Mo ever since he had heard about him from Palace Master Sijin. Now there was no conflict within the Pil Sun Sacred World. As for the Heavenly Void World, because of some restrictions in the Golden Crow 9 worlds, the Heavenly Void Palace Master could not personally come to the Pil Sun Sacred World. After the defeat of the army he had sent, it would not be easy to stop the Second War. In other words, the Pil Sun's sacred world had basically settled down, and Jian Wushuang's strength was enough to travel in the Golden Crow 9 worlds. Naturally, he wanted to look for Lord Mo and ask him to help him refine the Blood Mountain sword again. Look for Lord Mo to refine a magic weapon? Yin Suer frowned slightly. Mr. Sword 1, you don't know this. Although Lord Mo has a good reputation, he is an extremely arrogant person. His identity is also very honorable. Not only is he the #1 artifact master in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, but he is also an extremely powerful immortal saint. Because of this, it is very difficult to see him on a daily basis. There are many powerful great divine masters in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. It is said that there are even immortal saints who go to visit him. However, most of them will not see him unless it is something that benefits them greatly. For example, someone paid a great price to ask him to refine a holy treasure, or some treasures that interested him. Last time, when I went to visit him with the Blood Wilderness Emperor Essence, although I sold it to him, Lord Mo never came to see me. You didn't see Lord Mo last time? Jian Wushuang was surprised. Yes. Yin Suer smiled bitterly. It's so difficult just to see him. As for asking him to help you refine the divine weapon again, it's even more difficult, and the price to pay is ridiculously high. How much? Jian Wushuang asked. Under normal circumstances, this Lord Mo can help you refine 300,000 saint elixirs once, Yin Suer said. 300,000 saint elixirs? Jian Wushuang could not help but be shocked. 300,000 saint elixirs were too much. After all, they had defeated the 4 top forces last time. They had only obtained 200,000 saint elixirs from the 4 top forces, and the experts he had killed. This was almost 70% of the resources of the 4 top forces. But now, Lord Mo needed 300,000 sacred elixirs just to refine it once? That's not right. Even a ready-made holy treasure magic weapon doesn't need 100,000 sacred elixirs. He asked for 300,000 right away. Who would ask him to refine a holy treasure? Jian Wushuang asked. No, Mr. Sword 1, I'm afraid you're mistaken. Yin Suer shook her head and said, the holy treasure saber you gave me last time is indeed of low value, and not worth 100,000 sacred treasures. But this holy treasure saber is completely different from the holy treasure that Lord Mo refined personally. The holy treasure saber refined by Lord Mo is a natal magic weapon. It can be connected to the essence blood of the immortal saint and continuously grow. The value of such a natal magic weapon at the level of a holy treasure is far beyond that of an ordinary holy treasure. Natal magic weapon? Jian Wushuang suddenly understood. If Lord Mo had refined a natal magic weapon at the level of a holy treasure, then it was indeed worth the price. Because a life-bound divine weapon at the level of a holy treasure was definitely worth more than 1,000,000 holy elixirs, or even more. Unfortunately, the life-bound divine weapon was only effective on the master, who was connected to him by blood and sweat. But if it fell into the hands of others, it would only be an ordinary holy treasure divine weapon. 300,000 holy elixirs is not a small amount. I can't afford so many holy elixirs now. However, even if I take out the existing sacred elixirs, I should still have treasures of equal value. Jian Wushuang secretly smiled. Chapter 2835. One Emperor 4 Pavilions. Jian Wushuang had a lot of treasures on hand that were worth 300,000 saint elixirs. Of course, there were also treasures that were worth 300,000 saint elixirs. For example, the Mountain and River Map, Blood Mountain Sword, and Seal the Heaven Scroll were all worth more than 300,000 saint elixirs. However, these treasures were all very useful to Jian Wushuang. Besides these treasures, the only treasure that Jian Wushuang could take out that was worth 300,000 saint elixirs was the last piece of Blood Wilderness Emperor Crystal. In the Blood Wilderness Concentrate, Jian Wushuang had obtained 3 pieces of Blood Wilderness Emperor Crystal. He had already used the 2 small pieces. The second piece of Blood Wilderness Emperor Crystal was sold to Lord Mo by Yin Suer at a very high price. Jian Wushuang had also divided 10,000 saint elixirs. But in fact, Yin Suer had actually sold it for more than 10,000 saint elixirs. The Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal that Yin Suer had sold was only 230 kilograms, but the last piece of Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal in his interspatial ring weighed more than 10,000 kilograms. A Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal that weighed more than 10,000 kilograms was worth at least 600,000 to 700,000 sacred elixirs. Moreover, Lord Mo was a weaponsmith, and he needed rare materials like the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal. If he brought this Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal to see Lord Mo and asked Lord Mo to listen to him reforge the Blood Mountain sword, Lord Mo might agree. Mr. Sword 1, Lord Mo is of high status. Even I don't have his direct contact. I can only contact his personal disciple. How about I ask him for you now? Yin Suer said. No need. Just tell me where he is. I'll go and find him myself, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Okay. Yin Suer nodded. It's not a secret where Lord Mo lives. Many people in the 9 realms know that he lives in the Dragon Phoenix Sacred City, one of the 4 holy cities. Dragon Phoenix Sacred City? Jian Wushuang's heart skipped a beat. Why does the Dragon Phoenix Sacred City sound like it has something to do with the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion? Of course it has something to do with it. The headquarters of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion is in the Dragon Phoenix Sacred City, and the Dragon Phoenix Sacred City is completely under the control of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, Yin Suer said with a smile. Is that so? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Then he said, Castle Lord Suer, I've been wandering in the Pill Sun Sacred World, so I don't know much about the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. As for the 4 holy cities you mentioned, I've never heard of them before. Can you tell me about them? Of course, Yin Suer immediately said. Mr. Sword 1, you should know that the 9 realms of the Golden Crow is actually made up of 9 realms. Compared to the entire absolute beginning divine realm, the 9 realms of the Golden Crow is nothing. Just in the endless territories beyond the 3rd firmament, places like the 9 realms of the Golden Crow are countless. And the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, before this, every realm had a world overlord who controlled everything. This world overlord was always held by the undying sage. For example, the previous world overlord of the sacred realm of the Pill Sun was my father. But after my father died, the sacred realm of the Pill Sun no longer had a world overlord. It became the only realm in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow without the undying sage. In fact, since the immortal saint is no longer in charge of the Pill Sun sacred world, we don't have the right to occupy such a large territory. The other major realms can totally divide up the territory of the Pill Sun sacred world. The reason why this didn't happen is that the 9 realms of the Golden Crow had made an agreement a long time ago. What agreement? Jian Wushuang looked at her. This agreement was decided by many world masters of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow and the top forces, Yin Suer said in a deep voice. Mr. Sword 1, first of all, you should know the overall structure of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. The 9 realms of the Golden Crow has always been divided into 1 emperor, 4 pavilions, and 8 great worlds. The 8 great worlds here refer to 8 of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. The 4 pavilions are the 4 super forces that live in different realms, but do not expand their territory. They are the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, the Star Pointing Pavilion, the Thundercloud Pavilion, and the Celestial Pavilion. Their overall strength and heritage are far above that of the other realms. Although they do not compete for hegemony, they have created a sacred city with great means. These 4 holy cities are the most prosperous places in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Upon hearing this, Jian Wushuang's pupils contracted. He had heard of the 4 pavilions, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, and the Star Pavilion. The Dragon Phoenix Pavilion was the recognized genius concentration camp in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Those who could enter the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion were all dragons and phoenixes among men. The Star Pavilion was the #1 chamber of commerce in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Its power covered all the realms of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. For example, there were many branches of the Star Pavilion in the Pill Sun sacred world. He knew about both of them, but it was his first time hearing about the Thundercloud Pavilion and the Celestial Immortal Pavilion. However, the Thundercloud Pavilion and the Celestial Immortal Pavilion were not weak, since they were named after the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and the Point Star Pavilion. Now that there are 4 pavilions, what does one emperor mean? Jian Wushuang asked. One emperor means the true overlord of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, the Bone Emperor realm. Yin Suer said. Bone Emperor realm? A realm? Jian Wushuang was stunned. That's right. There are 9 realms in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, but there are only 8 of them. The last one is the Bone Emperor realm, Yin Suer said solemnly. Although the Bone Emperor realm is also a realm, its territory is larger than the other 8 realms combined. The realm master of the Bone Emperor realm, Bone Emperor, is recognized as the number 1 expert in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Jian Wushuang was shocked. They were both in the same realm, but the territory of the Bone Emperor realm was comparable to the other 8 realms combined. How strong is the Bone Emperor, the number 1 expert in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow? Jian Wushuang asked. I don't know exactly how strong he is, but he is definitely a very strong immortal saint. There have been rumors that when he rose to power, he killed several immortal saints in one go, which made him famous. After he established the Bone Emperor realm and became the emperor of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, he rarely made a move. But every time he made a move, it was earth-shaking. All the immortal saints in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow respected him. For example, the world overlords of the 8 realms and the undying saints of the 4 pavilions are all in awe of this Bone Emperor. As for that agreement, it was actually proposed by this Bone Emperor. Because the 8 realms have always been dependent on the Bone Emperor realm, this Bone Emperor proposed this agreement to maintain the balance of the 8 realms. Yin Suer said. Chapter 2836. Departure Dragon Phoenix Sacred City. Actually, this agreement is very simple. Without the consent of the Bone Emperor, those sector lords are not allowed to set foot in other realms. In this way, even if the 8 realms want to fight, only the great divine masters and the army of divine masters can fight. However, unless those undying saints have a deep hatred, they will not really fight to the death. This is also to ensure the combat strength of the undying saints of the Golden Crow 9 realms. After all, there are external enemies in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Once they encounter an external enemy, the divine master's battle strength is almost useless. It's all because of the immortal saints, Yin Suer said. Is this the agreement? Jian Wushuang's expression was rather strange. Don't underestimate this agreement. If it weren't for the existence of this agreement, our Pill Sun sacred world would have been destroyed by the heavenly void world or other realms, Yin Suer said. Jian Wushuang also understood. Indeed, if the realm lords of other realms could freely enter and exit the sacred Sundan world, the immortal saint would have personally arrived. After the sacred Sundan world lost the protection of Saint Crimson Stone, it would have been completely destroyed. The heavenly void world did not need to send such a large army. Moreover, the heavenly void world had suffered a great loss in Jian Wushuang's hands. Therefore, even if they wanted to take revenge, it would be difficult. Lord Mo is in the Dragon Phoenix Sacred City, so it seems that I have to go to the Dragon Phoenix Sacred City, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. When will you leave, Mr. Sword One? Yin Suer asked. I'll go back to the Sword Alliance and make some arrangements. Then after that, I'll leave directly, Jian Wushuang said. There is a passage leading directly to the Dragon Phoenix Sacred City in the Pill Sun Sacred World. Please inform me when you leave. I'll order someone to open it, Yin Suer said. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded and left. In the lofty hall of the Sword Alliance, many high-level officials gathered together. Listen up. Although the Sword Alliance is extremely powerful and can threaten the status of Crimson Rock Castle, we have always been allies with Crimson Rock Castle. In the future, you must obey this rule and not take the initiative to become enemies with Crimson Rock Castle. In the future, the Sword Alliance will live in the current situation. Without my instructions, it cannot continue to expand, Jian Wushuang said coldly. Upon hearing Jian Wushuang's words, The experts of the Sword Alliance changed their expressions and felt a little unwilling. The current Sword Alliance had far surpassed the Crimson Rock Castle in terms of overall strength and prestige. Therefore, it would be too easy for them to replace the Crimson Rock Castle at this time. Even if they could not replace Crimson Rock Castle, it would be good if they could continue to expand. However, Jian Wushuang had given such an order. Master, will the Sword Alliance live in the current situation peacefully from now on? Xiao Tiexin looked over with a frown. For now, but not in the future, Jian Wushuang said, looking around. Don't worry, just bear with it for a while. At least a few decades, at most 100 years. After that, I will give you a platform to expand as you wish. Hearing this, the eyes of the people of the Sword Alliance lit up again. Jian Wushuang waved his hand to signal them to leave, leaving Xiao Tiexin alone. Xian heir, I will leave the Pil Sun Sacred World for a while. After I leave, I will leave the matters in the Pil Sun Sacred World to you, Jian Wushuang said. Yes. Xiao Tiexin nodded respectfully. She had been by Jian Wushuang's side for many years. Since the founding of the Sword Alliance, she had been the chief supervisor here. Usually, she had been taking care of many things. Although her strength was not high, she did have great prestige in the Sword Alliance, and many people believed in her. Take this interspatial ring. Jian Wushuang flipped his hand and handed an interspatial ring to Xiao Tiexin. After taking it, Xiao Tiexin scanned it with his consciousness, but his eyes suddenly widened. Young master, this is... It's the Corpse Puppet Army. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. I'm leaving this time, because I want to explore the Golden Crow 9 realms more. The Corpse Puppet Army is of little use to me. I'll leave them with you to manage them. On the one hand, it will help you better control the Sword Alliance. On the other hand, although the Pil Sun Sacred World has temporarily calmed down, it's hard to guarantee that there won't be any more changes. If anything happens, I might not be able to come back in time. With the Corpse Puppet Army, I can be slightly relieved. That being said, there's no need for you to keep all the corpse puppets, young master. Why don't you bring a few more with you in case you need them? Xiao Tiexin said. The blood armor corpse puppet is powerful and useful to me, so I can take it with me. As for the other corpse puppets, I don't need them. Jian Wushuang smiled. After saying a few more words, Jian Wushuang set off. Dragon Phoenix Sacred City was the core of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, and one of the 4 most prosperous sacred cities. Although it was only a sacred city, in fact the territory of the sacred city was no smaller than that of the Danyang continent in the Holy Sundan world. There were countless cultivators from various realms in the sacred city, and the quality was very high. In the south of Dragon Phoenix Sacred City, there was a vast open space with many huge spatial passages in the void. These spatial passageways led to different realms. People often used these spatial passageways to return to their own realms. Naturally, cultivators from different realms also used these spatial passageways to come to the sacred Dragon and Phoenix City. At this moment, the light from one of the spatial passageways had already lit up. In this open space, there were some soldiers wearing unique red battle armor standing guard. When the spatial passageways lit up, some of the soldiers looked over. Someone is coming again. This space passage should lead to the Pil Sun Sacred World. Pil Sun Sacred World? I heard that the realm lord of Pil Sun Sacred World died a long time ago. There hasn't been a second immortal saint born there. The great divine masters in Pil Sun Sacred World have been fighting among themselves. Their overall strength has been greatly weakened. They have long become the weakest sacred world in the Golden Crow 9 realms. This was a long time ago. I just heard that the internal conflict in the Pil Sun Sacred World has ended. The soldiers in red armor were chatting casually. They were responsible for guarding the teleportation point in the spatial passage, and were very well informed. Most of them knew about the major events that happened in the various realms. Buzz! The light gradually faded, and a human figure walked out of the spatial tunnel. This person wore a golden robe and carried a long sword on his back. His face was extremely young, and the aura that he emitted was that of a senior great divine master. Chapter 2837. Requesting to see Lord Mo. Is this the Dragon Phoenix Sacred City? Jian Wushuang looked around with a faint smile on his face. Whoosh! He turned into a stream of light and rushed forward. The red-armored soldiers guarding the space passage did not stop him. Because he had been guided by Yin Sewer, Jian Wushuang soon found the place where Lord Mo lived after he came to the Dragon Phoenix Sacred City. It was a huge group of volcanoes. The whole group of volcanoes was surrounded by endless flames all year round. The air was extremely hot, and the ground and the sky were red. However, in the center of this group of volcanoes, there was a huge castle. This huge castle was where the #1 refiner of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow lived. This huge scarlet castle was completely covered by a magic array. And around the magic array, there were many cultivators waiting there. Those cultivators were not very strong. There were Earth Divine Masters and Sky Divine Masters, as well as Great Divine Masters, but there were very few of them. They stood in an orderly manner, waiting to enter the castle. So many people. Jian Wushuang appeared in the void outside the castle. Looking at the long dragon at the entrance, his expression could not help but change. At this time, whoosh! A figure suddenly appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. The person who came was wearing the same armor and had a cold expression. He was the guard of the giant castle. However, even though he was just a guard, his aura had reached the level of a junior Great Divine Master. A Great Divine Master is actually a guard here? Jian Wushuang was secretly surprised. May I know who you are? What brings you to our Fire Cloud Castle? The guard asked. Although it was just a question, his tone was a little arrogant. This was normal. Fire Cloud Castle was personally founded by Lord Mo, not only in the Dragon Phoenix Sacred City, but also in the entire Golden Crow 9 realms. It had a very high status. Usually there were many great divine masters who came to see it. There were even many immortal saints. This guard had seen too many of them. When he faced the immortal saints, he was in awe. When he faced the invincible divine masters and peak divine masters, he was very humble and polite. However, when he faced Jian Wushuang, he saw that Jian Wushuang only had the aura of an advanced great divine master. His attitude became colder. I'm here to see Lord Mo, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. As expected, the guard was not surprised at all. He glanced at Jian Wushuang and asked, "What's your name? And which realm are you from?" Sword 1, from the Pil Sun Sacred World, Jian Wushuang replied. Sword 1. The guard shook his head. Obviously, he had never heard of him, but he still said, "Wait here for a moment, I'll go and inform you." Thank you. Jian Wushuang thanked him slightly. The guard immediately went into the castle to report. In the depths of the giant castle, in a magnificent palace, a middle-aged man in a purple robe sat upright with a smile, holding a cup of tea in his hand. "Sir." The guard came to the front of the middle-aged man and said respectfully, "A man called Sword 1 came from outside and asked to see the castle lord." Sword 1. The purple-robed middle-aged man raised his eyebrows and tried to recall the name in his mind, but he had never heard of him. This was normal. Jian Wushuang's rise was too short. He had reached such an achievement in just a few decades. He was only very famous in the Pil Sun Sacred World and the Heavenly Void World, but he was not very famous in the entire Golden Crow 9 realms. Therefore, not many people had heard of him. What realm is this person at? The purple-robed middle-aged man asked. He's an advanced Great Divine Master. The guard replied. He's just a mere advanced Great Divine Master. I've never even heard of him before. Clearly, he doesn't have any great background. He actually wants to seek an audience with the master. How ridiculous. The purple-robed middle-aged man sneered. Then he waved his hand. The visitor is a guest. Let junior brother Fan Xian receive him. Yes. The guard immediately left. The purple-robed middle-aged man still had a smile on his face, but his eyes were looking at a young man who was wearing luxurious woolen clothes. His face was cold and stern, and he had a dignified bearing. "I'm sorry, young Master Chu, you must have made a fool out of me." Haha, not at all. Fire Cloud Castle is the residence of the #1 refiner master in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. There are naturally many people who come to visit. Chu Yin should have an eye-opening experience today. The young man also had a smile on his face. He even gave a few simple compliments. Young Master Chu, I already know the purpose of your visit. Moreover, the reward you offered is indeed very high. This shows that you are indeed very sincere. However, the thing you want can only be refined by my master personally. However, you should have heard of my master's temper. The purple-robed middle-aged man glanced at the young man. He smiled. If you want the old man to personally refine it, not only do you need to pay a sufficient price, you also need to look at his mood. If he is in a good mood, he might agree to help you refine it. But if he is in a bad mood, no matter how much you pay him, I'm afraid he won't help you. I know this. Hence, mister, please help me put in a few good words in front of Lord Mo. After all, Chu Yin will remember it in his heart. The young man said, Haha, that's easy to say. Although it's the first time I've met you, I've known Realm Lord Jiu Chu for many years. Naturally, I know what to do, the purple-robed middle-aged man said with a smile. Thank you, sir, the young man said with a smile. He was in a great mood. Outside the castle, Sword 1. The guard appeared in front of Jian Wushuang again. I've reported your request and Lord Fan Xian has agreed to meet you. Come with me. Lord Fan Xian, who is that? Jian Wushuang asked. He is one of the 6 in-name disciples of our fort master. He has a very high position in Fire Cloud Castle, the guard said. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang could not help being stunned. He knew that it would not be easy to meet Lord Mo, but he did not expect that he would be so unpopular. Back then, Yin Suer had come here to seek an audience for the sake of selling the blood-desolate Emperor crystals. Although she had not met Lord Mo, she had at least met Lord Mo's personal disciple. Furthermore, she had the personal disciple's transmission token. However, the person who had come to greet him was only an in-name disciple. The difference between an in-name disciple and a personal disciple was not small. It was very obvious that the person who had come to receive him in Fire Cloud Castle was someone who looked at his status and status. When he saw that he was only a high-level great divine lord, and that he was not famous, he had casually sent an in-name disciple to receive him. Chapter 2838. 10,000 kilograms of blood wilderness emperor essence. If I had known, I would have asked Yin Suer to say hello for me. Jian Wushuang smiled bitterly, but he still followed the guard into the castle. On the way, Jian Wushuang looked at the long line at the entrance and could not help asking, Sir, what do these people do? The guard sneered and said, they are some blacksmiths from different realms. There are blacksmiths of different levels. There are 3rd or 4th grade blacksmiths, 5th or even 6th grade blacksmiths. They come here with only one purpose, which is to become apprentice blacksmiths in Fire Cloud Castle. Apprentice? Why are apprentices so popular? Jian Wushuang was surprised. Of course, although they are just apprentices, they still have the chance to see the scene of top blacksmiths refining weapons. If they are lucky, they might even be chosen by the castle lord and become his in-name disciples. That would be great. The guard continued. The castle lord now has a total of 1 personal disciple and 6 in-name disciples. Except for that personal disciple, the other 6 in-name disciples are all chosen from apprentices. I see. Jian Wushuang understood. He followed the guard into the castle and came to a side hall. Wait here. Lord Fan Xian is receiving a supreme divine master. He will come to see you when he is done, the guard said. Thank you. Jian Wushuang thanked him. The guard left quickly, while Jian Wushuang waited quietly in the side hall. After waiting for 4 hours, a middle-aged man with a big belly finally came to the side hall. You must be Sword 1, right? The middle-aged man was only a peak divine master, but he stood in front of Jian Wushuang without any respect or humility. On the contrary, he had a lofty attitude. Thanks, these blacksmiths are really arrogant. Jian Wushuang sighed in his heart, but he still smiled on the surface. It's me. You must be Mr. Fan Xian, right? Sit. The middle-aged man, Fan Xian, who was one of Lord Mo's in-name disciples, waved his hand. Jian Wushuang immediately sat down beside him. Are you here to see Master? Fan Xian glanced at Jian Wushuang. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. Haha. My master is the #1 blacksmith in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. There are too many people who come to see him. He doesn't have the time to meet so many people. Therefore, those who come to see him are usually received by us disciples. Unless some very high-ranking people come to see him in person, my master will personally receive them. So if you have something to say, just tell me directly. Fan Xian said. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. He knew that it would be unrealistic for him to meet Lord Mo directly, so he had to go through Fan Xian. To tell you the truth, I'm here today because I hope that Lord Mo can personally refine another magic weapon for me, Jian Wushuang said. Ask Master to refine a magic weapon? Fan Xian looked at Jian Wushuang in surprise, and could not help but smile. Sword 1, you're only an advanced great divine master, right? With your strength, the magic weapon you use is only a superior divine treasure. Even if you have a lot of treasures, and want to make a divine treasure, there are others in my Fire Cloud Castle who can do it. Why do you need my master to do it personally? No. The magic weapon I want to make can only be made by Lord Mo himself, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. My master must make it himself? Fan Xin's expression changed, but then he said in a deep voice, Sword 1. My master is the #1 blacksmith in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. It's not easy for him to make the magic weapon, and it will cost a lot of money. I know. When I came here I asked around. If you want Lord Mo to make it himself, the price must be no less than 300,000 holy elixirs. Am I right? Jian Wushuang said. Well, can you afford 300,000 holy elixirs? Fan Xian looked at him. I don't have any ready-made holy elixirs, but I do have treasures that are worth more than 300,000 holy elixirs. Jian Wushuang smiled, and then took out the last piece of Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal. The Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal was about the size of an adult, and weighed more than 10,000 pounds. However, Jian Wushuang held it in his hand easily and weighed it casually. Mr. Fan Xian, do you recognize this crystal in my hand? Jian Wushuang asked with a smile. This is Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal? Fan Xian, who was sitting casually on the chair, suddenly stood up. He looked at the crystal in Jian Wushuang's hand with a trace of shock. Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal was one of the most important materials for refining holy treasures. As a weapon refiner, he had been dealing with all kinds of weapon refining materials all year round. How could he not recognize it? How heavy is such a big piece of Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal? Fan Xian exclaimed. I estimated that this Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal should weigh 12,000 pounds. On the market, 1 pound of Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal is worth 100 holy elixirs. Moreover, it's priceless. Am I right? Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Fan Xian could not help but gulp. What Jian Wushuang said was naturally true. Blood Wilderness Emperor crystals were very rare and precious. 1 pound of Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal was more than enough to sell 100 saint elixirs. If they met people who needed it, 1 pound of Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal could sell for 200 saint elixirs. But 12,000 pounds of Blood Wilderness Emperor crystals, even if it was 100 saint elixirs per pound, it was still 1.2 million saint elixirs. Under normal circumstances, an ordinary immortal saint who was not good at accumulating wealth would only have 500,000 to 600,000 saint elixirs. Many immortal saints could not afford 1.2 million saint elixirs. But now, Ms. Fan Xian, I wonder if my Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal is worth 300,000 saint elixirs. Can I ask Master Mo to help me? Jian Wushuang said with a smile. The price is enough, but I don't know if I can ask the master to help me. Fan Xin's face had become extremely serious, and her attitude toward Jian Wushuang had obviously changed. Mr. Sword 1, please wait here for a moment. I'll report this matter to Senior Brother Bai Yan, and ask him to see you in person. Oh. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Judging from Fan Xin's tone, Jian Wushuang knew that Bai Yan was the only personal disciple under Lord Mo. If he wanted to see Lord Mo, he had to go through Bai Yan. Then I'll wait here. Jian Wushuang smiled, and put the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal into his interspatial ring. Chapter 2839. The lowest threshold in the main hall of the castle. Lord Mo's personal disciple Bai Yan was casually chatting with the imposing young man. At this moment, Fan Xian walked in and whispered a few words into Bai Yan's ear. Bai Yan's expression immediately changed, and he became a little surprised. Then he stood up and said apologetically, "Master Chu, I have something to take care of. Please wait here for a moment." "No problem." The young man waved his hand, indicating that he did not care. Bai Yan immediately walked toward the side hall with Fan Xian. When they arrived at the side hall, Bai Yan immediately saw Jian Wushuang, who was waiting quietly. "Haha, you must be Mr. Sword One, right?" Bai Yan smiled and spoke in a gentle tone. "Sword One greets Mr. Bai Yan." Jian Wushuang bowed slightly. Bai Yan was capable of becoming Lord Mo's personal disciple. Jian Wushuang did not know about his weapon refining level, but his strength was not weak. He had already reached the level of a divine master at the peak. He was much stronger than Fan Xian, who was only at the peak of the divine master realm. "I heard that you came here to ask Master to refine a magic weapon, and you also brought a 10,000-pound Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal?" Bai Yan looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang waved his hand and took out the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal. Bai Yan's vision was much higher than Bai Yan's. With just a glance at the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal, he could instantly tell that it was a genuine Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal. Moreover, based on the size of the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal, the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal should weigh about 12,000 kilograms. Bai Yan's eyes immediately lit up. "Junior brother Fan Xian, you can leave first. I'll have a good chat with Mr. Sword One," Bai Yan instructed. "Yes." Fan Xian nodded. He looked at the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal with a burning gaze, but he still left directly. Only Jian Wushuang and Bai Yan were left in the side hall. The Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal is one of the main materials used to refine holy treasures. It's extremely rare. Usually, it's rare to see a Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal that weighs more than 100 kilograms, and it requires a great opportunity. But the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal in your hand weighs more than 10,000 kilograms. Bai Yan could not help but sigh. As a weapon refiner, what he yearned for the most were rare weapon refining materials. Last time, Yin Suer came to him and sold him a piece of Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal that weighed 230 caddies, which made him quite happy. Now the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal weighed more than 10,000 caddies. Even he could not help but feel ecstatic. "Mr. Sword One, the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal in your hand is extremely valuable. If you are willing, you can sell it to my Fire Cloud Castle. I can buy it for 20 saint elixirs more than the market price. Your piece of Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal weighs 12,000 caddies, so you can get 1,440,000 saint elixirs for it. I'll give you another 10,000 saint elixirs. How about 1,450,000 saint elixirs?" Bai Yan said. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. He had to admit that Bai Yan was very generous and offered a very high price. Of course, this was mainly related to the great wealth of the Fire Cloud Castle. With the #1 refiner in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, there were too many people who came to Fire Cloud Castle to ask for refining weapons. Every time they refined weapons, Fire Cloud Castle could get a huge commission. After so many years of accumulation, the wealth of Fire Cloud Castle was terrifying. Perhaps the wealth of Fire Cloud Castle was not as rich as the 4 pavilions, but it was not much worse. "Mr. Bai Yan, Mr. Fan Xian should have told you just now. My purpose here is not to sell the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal, but to ask Lord Mo to personally refine my magic weapon for me," Jian Wushuang said with a smile. "I heard about it from junior brother Fan Xian. But with all due respect, I'm afraid it's difficult for you to ask Master to refine your magic weapon for you," Bai Yan said. "Why?" Jian Wushuang asked. "To tell you the truth, Master has a very strange temper. Even if he wants to refine a magic weapon, it depends purely on his mood and preferences. As for the so-called 300,000 holy elixirs, it's just a minimum threshold set by the Master. His purpose is to stop some unnecessary visitors, but it's just a minimum threshold. Even if you achieve it, it doesn't mean that Master will definitely refine a magic weapon for you. Right now, besides you, there's another person in Fire Cloud Castle. His father is a world overlord, and he brought 300,000 sacred elixirs to ask the Master to refine a special treasure for him. But I think Master will ignore him, Bai Yin explained. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang could not help but be speechless. He could understand the hidden meaning behind Bai Yan's words. Even the young master of a world lord took out 300,000 saint elixirs, but Lord Mo ignored him. He had no background, and was only an advanced great divine master. How could he be taken seriously by Lord Mo? If that's the case, how can I ask Lord Mo to help me? Jian Wushuang asked. 300,000 saint elixirs is the minimum requirement for the master to refine magic weapons or treasures. Secondly, it depends on the identity of the other party. If it's the immortal saint, my master will give him some face. If it's the powerful immortal saint, my master will give him a warm welcome. Long ago, Lord Bone Emperor personally visited my master and asked me to refine a treasure for him. When Lord Bone Emperor comes, my master will not dare to neglect him, Bai Yin said. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang smiled bitterly. Bone Emperor was the strongest expert in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Who would dare to not give him face? Of course, Lord Mo would not dare to. It was obvious that Lord Mo's refining of treasures was largely determined by his strength and identity. This was normal. In the primordial divine world, experts were respected wherever they went. Only experts would receive sufficient respect. Other than that, there's another possibility that Master can personally take action. That is, the other party can take out a treasure that even my master is interested in. Or the treasure that he refined has a certain degree of challenge to my master. Master will also take action. Bai Yin continued. The Blood Wilderness Emperor Crystal that you are taking out is indeed very valuable. It is much more than the entire wealth of many immortal saints. However, with all due respect, even if you give this Blood Wilderness Emperor Crystal to Master, he might not be interested. At his level, there aren't many treasures in the Golden Crow 9 realms that can truly make him interested. Chapter 2840. Shock. As for the treasure that my master can refine, it's also very rare in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. The last time it appeared, it was the treasure that Lord Bone Emperor asked my master to refine. The treasure that you asked my master to refine shouldn't be of a higher level than the treasure that Lord Bone Emperor refined, right? Bai Yin teased. Hearing Bai Yan's words, Jian Wushuang's expression became a little strange. However, he could understand that Lord Mo was the #1 blacksmith in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. With such a high level of craftsmanship and great strength, he naturally would not take ordinary items seriously. Although the Blood Wilderness Emperor essence was rare and precious, there were still many in the Fire Cloud Castle. As for the sacred elixir, the Fire Cloud Castle did not lack it. It was too difficult to impress Lord Mo with just a piece of the Blood Wilderness Emperor essence. If I can't impress him with the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal, I might have to rely on that thing. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly, but he had already made up his mind. Mr. Bai Yin, in addition to the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal, I have a special item that Lord Mo might be interested in, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Oh, do you have a treasure that is more valuable and rarer than the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal? Bai Yin looked over in surprise. Jian Wushuang did not say anything. He slowly reached out his hand, and a jade bottle appeared in his hand. There was a drop of boiling hot, bright red liquid in the jade bottle. Is this essence blood? Bai Yin sensed the liquid in the jade bottle and was stunned. Show me the essence blood. Jian Wushuang handed the jade bottle to Bai Yin without hesitation. Bai Yin took the jade bottle and began to examine the drop of blood essence. It's so pure, so pure. Although the strength of the blood essence is not very strong, and its owner is not a high-level divine master, his bloodline is terrifyingly high. The blood essence is so pure that it is at least 1,000 times higher than that of a normal human cultivator. Such pure blood essence those top-tier beasts, fierce beasts, and even some of the top-tier bloodlines in the absolute beginning divine realm can't have it. Only one kind of existence can have this kind of blood essence, and that is the special life forms born in the vast absolute beginning divine realm. Those innately powerful and unique special life forms. Bai Yan's eyes were shining with excitement, and his body was shaking violently. After a long while, he looked at Jian Wushuang again. Mr. Sword One, how did you get this essence blood? Bai Yan asked. I found it by chance, but I wonder if this essence blood can interest your master Mo? Jian Wushuang asked with a smile. Yes, absolutely. Bai Yan nodded solemnly. This is the essence blood of a special life form. The number of special life forms in the absolute beginning divine realm is pitifully few. I've never heard of any special life form in the Golden Crow 9 realms, or in the surrounding great realms. It's like ascending to heaven to get a drop of the essence blood of a special life form in the territory near the Golden Crow 9 realms. Master has always longed for a drop, but he only had extravagant hopes. He didn't expect that today. At this point, Bai Yan could no longer hold back his excitement. He took a deep breath. In a deep voice he said, Mr. Sword One, can I bring this drop of essence blood to meet Master personally? I can guarantee that Master will meet you personally and refine a magic weapon for you. Sure. Jian Wushuang nodded with a smile. Please wait here for a moment, Bai Yan said, and then rushed to the deepest part of the castle. Jian Wushuang continued to wait in the side hall. It's really troublesome to report to Master Mo one by one. Jian Wushuang sat there feeling helpless, but there was also a strange smile on his face. Such a drop of essence blood has shocked Bai Yan so much. If I take out the complete essence blood, wouldn't he go crazy? Jian Wushuang felt it was funny. He had prepared the drop of essence blood for Bai Yan in advance. The essence blood naturally did not come from some so-called special life form, but from him, a perfect chaotic creature. Of course, it was not his most complete essence blood, but his own essence blood, which he diluted and decomposed. It was only obtained after decomposing a full 100 parts. In other words, he had decomposed his complete essence blood into a full 100 drops, and he had just given one drop to Bai Yan. After decomposing 100 parts, the purity of this drop of essence blood was actually only 1% of his perfect chaotic creature's complete essence blood, or even less than 1%. Even so, it still made the Jade Flame so shocked. But Jian Wushuang's most complete essence blood was really amazing. The deepest part of the Fire Cloud Castle was at the bottom of a volcano. The crimson space was extremely hot, and the ground was so hot that it was scarlet red. A naked silver-haired elder held a farm axe in his hand and directly chopped it. Kacha! A piece of firewood in front of him was split in half. The silver-haired old man threw the split firewood into the sea of fire in front of him. Then, he picked up the second piece of firewood and struck out with his axe again. The silver-haired old man was rather thin and weak. His skin was dark, and he did not look like he had much strength. However, as he struck out with his axe, the firewood made of mystical wood was easily split in half. The silver-haired old man continued chopping firewood, one after another. At this moment the purple-robed middle-aged man, Bai Yan, hurriedly appeared in the crimson-red space. When he saw the silver-haired old man chopping firewood, Bai Yan would normally obediently stand by the side and wait. He would only speak when the silver-haired old man stopped to rest. However, he immediately spoke. Master, this disciple has an urgent matter. The silver-haired old man, who was chopping with the axe, paused for a moment, before continuing to chop down. Kacha! Another piece of firewood was chopped off. Following that, the silver-haired old man leaned on the axe and turned around to look at Bai Yan. Speak. He spoke softly. His voice was cold and emotionless, but it was extremely majestic. Master, I have brought something. Please take a look. Bai Yan did not waste any words, and directly took out the jade bottle. When the silver-haired old man, who originally had a cold expression, saw the jade bottle, or more accurately, the drop of blood essence in it, his pupils suddenly shrank. Chapter 2841. blood essence of a special life form. This purity is the blood essence of a special life form? The silver-haired older man suddenly raised his head, and his eyes shone with an unprecedented light. Yes, it's the blood essence of a special life form that you've been longing for, Master. Bai Yin smiled. Quick, bring it over for me to take a look. The silver-haired older man appeared incomparably excited. Bai Yin immediately brought the jade bottle to the silver-haired older man. After the silver-haired older man received it, he began to observe it. It's too pure. This blood essence is too pure. It's far more powerful than the blood essence of the two top bloodlines that I've obtained before. Such pure blood essence is definitely from a special life form. But moreover, even if it's a special life form, it should be one of the stronger ones. It's definitely not an ordinary one. The silver-haired older man carefully looked at the blood essence in the jade bottle. It was as if he was looking at a treasure. In the eyes of an extremely high-level refiner, the most precious things were no different from the materials used to refine divine weapons and treasures. And to refine an extremely high-level divine weapon or treasure, to a large extent, some blood essence was needed. The higher the level of the blood essence, the better. Once upon a time, this silver-haired older man had obtained 2 drops of blood essence from a top-tier bloodline race, as if he had obtained a precious treasure. However, those 2 drops of blood essence were nothing compared to the blood essence of a special life form. What was special about a special life form was something that the world had given birth to on its own. Every type of life form was unique. Even in the vast absolute beginning divine realm, there were too few of such life forms. It wasn't easy to reach the sky to obtain the blood essence of these special life forms. The silver-haired older man had always longed for a drop, but now, without any warning, his disciple had actually delivered a drop of the blood essence of a special life form to him. Bai Yin, who delivered this blood essence? The silver-haired older man immediately asked. It was an advanced great divine master called Swordsman, Bai Yin said hurriedly. Advanced great divine master? The silver-haired older man was somewhat startled. Master, I've never heard of Swordsman before. He doesn't seem to have any background in the Golden Crow 9 realms, but he has many treasures. From the very beginning, he took out a 12,000 kilogram blood desolate emperor crystal. He wanted to use this blood desolate emperor crystal to ask the master to refine a divine weapon for him personally. But when I said that a single blood desolate emperor crystal wouldn't move master out this drop of blood essence, Bai Yin said. An advanced great divine master can take out 12,000 kilograms of blood desolate emperor crystal and the blood essence of a special life form? Interesting. The silver-haired older man was obviously interested, and a faint smile appeared on his face. Bai Yin, go and invite Swordsman over. Remember to invite him, and be polite. Don't neglect him just because he is an advanced great divine master, the silver-haired old man warned. Yes. Bai Yin nodded and left immediately. The silver-haired elder was still looking at the essence blood in the jade bottle, his eyes shining even brighter. Mr. Swordsman, as I said before, the master was pleased to see the essence blood. Now he asked me to invite you to see him. Come with me. Bai Yin smiled humbly. In that case, I'll have to trouble you to lead the way. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Under Bai Yan's personal guidance, Jian Wushuang soon arrived at the deepest part of the castle and arrived at the crimson space. Jian Wushuang immediately saw the silver-haired old man. However, the silver-haired old man was now wearing an ordinary gray robe, and his expression became calm and unfathomable. Swordsman greets Master Mo. Jian Wushuang bowed respectfully, facing the number 1 blacksmith master in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, and a powerful immortal saint. Jian Wushuang still maintained his due respect. Swordsman is too polite. Please rise. The silver-haired older man, Master Mo, waved his sleeve, and Jian Wushuang naturally lifted him up. Then Lord Mo glanced at Bai Yin behind him and said, Disciple, you can leave now. I want to have a private chat with Swordsman. Yes. Bai Yin glanced at Jian Wushuang and bowed before leaving. Only Jian Wushuang and Lord Mo were left in the crimson space. Judging from your aura, you're only an advanced great divine master, but your attacks are extraordinary. First, you took out 12,000 kilograms of blood wilderness emperor crystal, and now you even took out a drop of special life essence blood. Moreover, you brought it to me. Aren't you worried that it'll be greedy and leave you and the two treasures behind? After all, this drop of special life essence blood is very attractive to me, Lord Mo said faintly. Haha, Lord Mo. As the number 1 blacksmith in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, with such a prominent status, how could you do such a thing? Even if you really have such a thought. Since I dared to come alone, I naturally have absolute confidence. If you really have such a plan, I guarantee you will regret it. Although Jian Wushuang smiled, the confidence between his brows was not an act. He was truly confident. He naturally had his own confidence since he dared to come alone, and showed the blood desolate emperor crystal, and the processed blood essence to Lord Mo. His confidence came from the fact that he was a perfect chaotic creature. Lord Mo could not kill him at all. If he was really desperate, he would use the will of heaven. He would also directly use the life-level suppression to teach Lord Mo a lesson. Lord Mo took a deep look at Jian Wushuang. His vision was very high, and he could see people very accurately. He could tell that Jian Wushuang was indeed very confident. Lord Mo changed the topic and smiled. What kind of magic weapon do you want me to refine for you? I have already refined the magic weapon. However, although this magic weapon is also a natal, it hasn't been added with my blood essence during the refining process. So I want to ask you to refine it again, so that it can merge with my blood essence power, Jian Wushuang said. It's that simple? Lord Mo could not help being surprised. It was only a matter of refining a natal magic weapon, and infusing it with the power of blood essence. Some 5th or 6th grade blacksmiths should be able to do it easily. Lord Mo, don't think of this as a simple matter. It seems easy, but in fact the requirements for blacksmiths are very high. It is said that you are a top 7th grade blacksmithing master, but whether you can really meet my requirements and complete this step for me is uncertain, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Oh. Lord Mo narrowed his eyes and glanced at Jian Wushuang without getting angry. Chapter 2842. Lord Mo's excitement. I wonder which magic weapon Sword 1 wants to refine again? Lord Mo asked with a smile. This is it. Jian Wushuang flipped his hand, and the Blood Mountain sword immediately appeared in his hand. Lord Mo stared at the Blood Mountain sword in Jian Wushuang's hand, and carefully browsed it for a moment. Finally, however, he frowned slightly. He was the number 1 master of blacksmithing in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. But at this moment, he did not see anything special about the Blood Mountain sword. It seemed that the Blood Mountain sword was no different from an ordinary magic weapon. Young friend, can you let me have a closer look at this sword? Lord Mo asked. Of course. Jian Wushuang directly threw the Blood Mountain sword in front of Lord Mo. Lord Mo stretched out his hand, and just as his old palm received the Blood Mountain sword buzz, instantly, a terrifying sword essence directly surged toward him. This sword intent could be said to be world-shocking. Although Lord Mo was an immortal saint, the instant he felt this sword intent, his body and mind could not help but tremble. At the same time, boundless killing intent spread out. Lord Mo felt a boundless sea of blood from the Blood Mountain sword. The sea of blood surged into the sky, and countless corpses were buried there. It was obvious that this sword had killed countless experts. It was a real killing sword, an unparalleled sword. This sword, after carefully examining the Blood Mountain sword and sensing its structure, Lord Mo's eyes were filled with more and more shock. In the end, the eyes of the number 1 refiner of the Golden Crow 9 realms, the immortal saint, were wide open. Perfect. Too perfect. The body of the sword on the outside and the structure on the inside, from the beginning of the refinement to the formation of the sword, and even the control of the fire, are all absolutely perfect. There is not a single flaw. On the contrary, every flaw has been found. How is it possible? How can someone refine a divine weapon so perfectly in this world? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Even though Lord Mo was well informed, and had seen all kinds of divine weapons, as well as all kinds of refining methods, he was completely shocked when he carefully felt the structure of the Blood Mountain sword. He was surprised or even completely shocked. He had never thought that a divine weapon could achieve such perfection. In his opinion, regardless of whether it was refining weapons or pills, no matter how high the standard was, there would still be a slight flaw in the refining process. This slight flaw was not called a flaw in the eyes of many people. Therefore, the divine weapons or elixirs they refined were still perfect. However, the divine weapon in front of him truly made him unable to find a single flaw. Perfect, truly perfect. Who is it? Which almighty expert refined such an incredible divine weapon? Lord Emo exclaimed in surprise. He was a peak 7th grade blacksmith, but when he refined divine weapons, it was already perfect to achieve 70% perfection. As for those 8th or 9th grade blacksmiths who were of a higher level than him, they could at most achieve 80% or 90% perfection. If one wanted to achieve 100% perfection, without any flaws, even the legendary blacksmiths at the peak of the 9th grade could not achieve it. But now this magic weapon. Although I don't know who made it, this magic weapon really opened my eyes. Lord Emo laughed loudly. His entire body was trembling, obviously very excited. He looked at Jian Wushuang and asked, "Sword One, can you tell me who made your sword?" Lord Emo looked at Jian Wushuang with anticipation. Obviously, he wanted to know the answer. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and said, "I can only tell you his name. His name is Xianyi. As for the rest, I can't tell you." Xianyi, Xianyi. Lord Emo chanted the name, and then bowed respectfully to Jian Wushuang. "Lord Emo, what are you doing?" Jian Wushuang was caught off guard. This powerful Lord Emo actually bowed respectfully to him? How could he stand it? "My friend Sword One, I'm bowing to you to thank you for telling me about this incredible weapon master. Although I can't see the scene of this master Xian Yi refining a magic weapon with my own eyes, I have no regrets just knowing his name. At least I know that in this world, there is an incredible weapon master who can refine the most perfect and flawless magic weapon. From now on, whether I have the chance to meet Master Xian Yi or not, he will be the person I respect and admire the most." Lord Mo's voice was sincere. He truly regarded Xian Yi as his idol. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang could only smile bitterly. He did not expect Lord Emo to be so shocked after seeing the Blood Mountain sword. He did not even care about his status. After a while, Lord Emo finally calmed down. "Sword One, I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Lord Emo smiled awkwardly. "Never mind." Jian Wushuang shook his head. "Now I finally know why you paid such a high price to ask me to refine this magic weapon for you. You're right. In the entire 9 realms of the Golden Crow, no one except me is qualified to refine this magic weapon again. Even for me, this is a great challenge. It can even be said to be the biggest challenge in my life." Lord Emo said seriously. "The biggest challenge? Does that mean that even you, Lord Emo, are not sure that you can refine the sword again?" Jian Wushuang asked, puzzled. "Yes." Lord Emo nodded. "It's impossible to refine such a perfect magic weapon. Even a top 8th grade or legendary 9th grade weapon refiner can't do it, let alone me. However, my young friend's request is to infuse his own blood essence into the magic sword. So for me, I have a chance to do it. As for my confidence, it's about 60%. "Only 60%? Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. "Don't worry, my friend. Although I'm only 60% sure, it won't affect or damage the magic weapon even if I fail. Since such a perfect magic weapon has been created, it's impossible to damage it. Furthermore, I'm just a top 7th grade weapon refiner, so I can't affect it at all," Lord Emo said. "Is that so?" Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. "In that case, when will you refine it, Lord Emo?" Chapter 2843. Holy Heaven Furnace and Earth Flame. It's not difficult to make this magic weapon. Just give me 3 days to prepare it. By the way, have you prepared the essence blood? Lord Emo asked. "I have prepared the essence blood, but not much. I don't know if it can satisfy my appetite for this magic weapon," Jian Wushuang said. "It doesn't matter. If it really doesn't work, I have accumulated a lot of blood essence from a powerful bloodline. I will just take some out." Lord Emo smiled and said, "In that case, please wait here quietly for 3 days." No problem. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Lord Mo began to prepare carefully, while Jian Wushuang waited quietly in the scarlet space. 3 days passed quickly. Lord Mo appeared in front of Jian Wushuang again. Sword 1, everything is ready. Come with me. Lord Mo smiled and led the way. Jian Wushuang followed Lord Mo and continued to walk toward the depths of the castle, or to be exact, the deepest part of the underground. After walking for about an hour, Jian Wushuang finally came to a vast open space. This open space was a high platform. If Jian Wushuang did not expect it, it should be at the core of a giant volcano. Beneath it and around it, there was red magma. It must be known that the volcanoes in the mountain range occupied by Fire Cloud Castle were hundreds of thousands of years old, or even millions of years old. Jian Wushuang was now in the oldest volcano among the volcanoes, which had existed for more than 30 million years. The temperature of the lava in the deepest part of the 30-million-year-old volcano was frighteningly high. Jian Wushuang was able to stand in the open space in the center of the volcano due to his powerful body protection ability. However, if it were an ordinary great divine master, he would have to exert all his divine power to resist the scorching temperature. However, it would consume too much divine power. Under normal circumstances, even a great divine master would not stay in the open space for long. Lord Mo was a powerful immortal saint, so he did not care about the temperature. Sword 1, how do you feel? Have you adapted to this place? Lord Mo asked with a smile. Not bad. Jian Wushuang smiled lightly, but it was extremely relaxed. After coming to this open space, Jian Wushuang's eyes had already locked onto the thing in the center of the open space. It was a huge fiery red cauldron. Yes, it was a cauldron. It was used to refine elixirs or weapons. The reason why this cauldron attracted Jian Wushuang's attention was that the aura it emitted was very strong. With such a strong aura, this cauldron should be a holy treasure, right? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes, it's a holy treasure. Lord Mo smiled. This cauldron is called the Holy Heaven Furnace. Many years ago, I spent a lot of effort and money to get it. Although it doesn't have any offensive or defensive power, if I use it to refine weapons or elixirs, it will be twice the result with half the effort. Naturally, it will be very useful to me. I am only a top 7th grade blacksmith, but if I use the Holy Heaven Furnace to refine weapons, I can barely reach the 8th grade level in a short period of time. Naturally, I have a greater chance of refining treasures. Oh, Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and nodded inwardly. The Holy Heaven Furnace was indeed very helpful to refining weapons, as it could make a top 7th grade blacksmith exert the abilities of an 8th grade blacksmith. This old man hasn't opened this sacred heavenly furnace for many years. Normally, even if I were to refine a divine weapon for someone, an ordinary cauldron would be sufficient. However, this time, Lord Mo faintly smiled and fiercely waved his large hand. A special seal smashed towards the holy heavenly furnace. Bang! The holy heavenly furnace also violently shook, as if it was responding. Rise the furnace! Lord Mo's voice sank, and a majestic divine power instantly surged out. The moment these 2 words left his mouth, the volcano that had existed for 30 million years, which was originally incomparably calm, began to roar crazily. The entire empty land, including the entire volcano, was shaking crazily, and the shaking was becoming more and more intense. While it was shaking crazily, fire pillars swept toward the holy heaven furnace from all directions. There were 9 fire pillars, and the most important thing was that the flames contained in the 9 fire pillars were purple-black. They were purple-black. The 9 purple-black fire pillars completely covered the holy heaven furnace, and in an instant, the entire open space turned into a sea of purple-black flames. Good boy. Jian Wushuang was also standing on the open space, but he happened to be outside of the sea of purple-black flames. He looked at the sea of flames in front of him with a trace of shock. These flames are so terrifying, Jian Wushuang exclaimed. It was indeed terrifying. Although he did not personally feel the power of the purple-black flames, he could vaguely feel that the purple-black flames had the power to burn down all living things. If I don't have the strength of an immortal saint, I'm afraid I won't be able to resist the flames. Even an invincible divine master would die if he was trapped in the sea of flames for 10 breaths. Jian Wushuang sighed. Then he looked at Lord Emo. Lord Emo, what are these flames? Jian Wushuang asked. This is the earth flame. Among all the natural flames in the divine beginning world, it's just an ordinary one. But although it's ordinary, it can accumulate temperature according to its existence. An ordinary earth flame that is tens of thousands of years old, or hundreds of thousands of years old is not terrible. But an earth flame that is more than 1,000,000 years old is very impressive. But the earth flame you see now has existed for 30 million years. Lord Emo said. 30 million years of earth flame? No wonder. Jian Wushuang secretly exclaimed. The reason why I chose to put my castle in this group of volcanoes is that there are all kinds of earth flame in the volcanoes. There are hundreds of thousands of years and millions of years of earth flame. The most important thing is the 30 million years of earth flame. This earth flame is definitely a dream for me, a blacksmith, Lord Emo said with a smile. Jian Wushuang also understood. In the open space in front of them, the purple-black flames formed a huge sea of fire. The holy heaven furnace, which had been standing quietly, turned red, and the aura it emitted became stronger and stronger. Finally, bang! The huge lid of the furnace was thrown away, and the holy heaven furnace rose up. Chapter 2844. Opening of the Holy Heavenly Furnace. Boom! Boom! As the Holy Heavenly Furnace was opened, this enormous volcano began to shake violently. One had to know that this volcano was the largest and the most core of this group of volcanoes. As it shook, immediately, the entire group of volcanoes began to shake violently. Endless flames erupted from the mouths of the volcanoes. The entire sky was dyed red. The noise was no less than that of countless volcanoes erupting at the same time. In an instant, the entire Fire Cloud Castle was shaken. In the main hall in the depths of Fire Cloud Castle, the purple-robed middle-aged man, Bai Yan, brought Jian Wushuang to meet Master Emo, and then returned here. He was still talking with Master Chu. Master Chu, the master is meeting a distinguished guest. I'm afraid it will take some time for him to give an answer. So I have to trouble you to wait here for a while, Bai Yan said to Master Chu. Since Master Emo is busy with something, as a junior, it's only right for me to wait here. Young Master Chu did not have any temper. What a joke! Even if his father came to pay a visit personally, when Master Emo had something important to do, he could only wait obediently. How could he dare to have the slightest bit of dissatisfaction? It had already been 3 days since they had waited like this. Young Master Chu was not in a hurry. He seemed to be very patient. But at this moment, boom boom, the entire Fire Cloud Castle, along with the huge group of volcanoes, began to shake violently. Endless flames filled the entire world. This huge commotion was noticed by Bai Yan and young Master Chu in the main hall. What's wrong? What's going on? Young Master Chu was puzzled, but Bai Yan suddenly stood up, his eyes filled with shock. This is the Holy Heavenly Furnace. The Holy Heavenly Furnace has opened? Bai Yan's voice was filled with shock. Holy Heavenly Furnace? Young Master Chu was also shocked when he heard these 3 words. The #1 master craftsman in the Golden Crow 9 realms, Lord Emo, was too famous in the entire Golden Crow 9 realms. Many experts knew of Lord Mo's craftsmanship. At the same time, they had also heard of the Holy Heavenly Furnace. Young Master Chu naturally knew of it. As for the Holy Heavenly Furnace, it was a sacred treasure that was used to refine weapons or elixirs. This treasure was especially important to Lord Emo. Moreover, it was not easy to activate this treasure. Not only did it require flames, but it also consumed a huge amount of Lord Mo's divine power and mental energy. Because of this, Lord Emo rarely used the sacred heavenly furnace when refining weapons. For example, the last time Lord Emo used the Holy Heavenly Furnace to refine weapons was a long time ago. The most powerful expert of the Golden Crow 9 realms, the Bone Emperor, personally came to ask Lord Emo to refine a special treasure. At that time, Lord Emo had just used the Holy Heavenly Furnace. It had been hundreds of thousands of years. And now, Lord Mo had actually used the holy heavenly furnace to refine weapons again. Master has been staying with that sword one for the past 3 days, and now he's using the holy heavenly furnace to refine weapons. It seems like he's refining a divine weapon for that sword one. But no matter what, that sword one is only an advanced great divine master. What kind of divine weapon does he want master to refine for him? It's actually worth master using the holy heavenly furnace? Bai Yin growled in his heart. Who invited Lord Mo to personally refine a divine weapon, and even let Lord Mo use the holy heavenly furnace to refine it? Young Master Chu's heart was shaken, and his heart was filled with doubts. He tried to ask Bai Yin, but Bai Yin only gave him a few prevarications and did not tell him who invited Lord Mo. Young Master Chu could only investigate on his own. It was not just Bai Yin and young Master Chu. Many experts and blacksmiths in the Fire Cloud Castle were also shocked. But other than surprise, there was more ecstasy and excitement. Especially those blacksmiths. The reason why they came to the Fire Cloud Castle was to observe the bloodbath blacksmithing technique. And now, although they could not see the scene of Lord Mo controlling the holy heavenly furnace to refine elixirs, they could only feel the holy heavenly furnace being activated. Feeling the great power of the blacksmithing was of great use to them. In the vast open space under the largest volcano in the center, the holy heavenly furnace was surrounded by a purple-black sea of fire. The aura of the holy treasure level had completely erupted. The holy heavenly furnace has been opened. Little friend Sword One, send your magic weapon over. Lord Mo shouted in a low voice. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate. He waved his hand, and threw the blood mountain sword into the holy heavenly furnace. As soon as it entered the holy heavenly furnace, the purplish-black flames around him suddenly soared. Lord Mo stared at the divine power defense shield, and directly rushed into the sea of flames, and came to the holy heavenly furnace. Then he began to slap all kinds of handprints on the holy heavenly furnace. These handprints were very unique, and they were a special tool refining method. Jian Wushuang could not understand this tool refining method, but he could feel that as the handprints were made, the temperature of the flames in the holy heavenly furnace became higher and higher. While using the tool refining method, Lord Mo kept throwing some auxiliary materials into the holy heavenly furnace. Time passed slowly. Lord Mo was using the holy heavenly furnace to refine the blood mountain sword with all his strength, while Jian Wushuang was watching quietly. Although he did not know how to refine weapons, the skills of a superior 7th grade weapon refiner were worth watching. In a flash, 9 days passed. During these 9 days, Lord Mo had been using the holy heavenly furnace with all his strength, and did not stop for a moment. After 9 days, Jian Wushuang could clearly sense that Lord Mo had used up a lot of divine power and mind power, and he looked a little tired. Because the holy heavenly furnace had been activated, the giant volcano had been shaking violently. The entire Fire Cloud Castle had been shaking for 9 days without any weakening. After 9 days and 9 nights of continuous refining, Lord Mo finally completed the refining step. Little friend Sword One, get ready. We are going to use the essence blood soon, Lord Mo said solemnly. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly, and his face became extremely solemn. In the blink of an eye, another hour passed. Buzz! A faint sword hum suddenly sounded from the holy heavenly furnace. The sound was not loud, and did not stand out in the sea of fire. However, both Lord Mo and Jian Wushuang heard it clearly. Especially Jian Wushuang, who was connected to the Blood Mountain Sword Heartblood. He could clearly feel the throbbing of the Blood Mountain Sword at this moment. Young friend, quickly send the essence blood into the holy heavenly furnace, Lord Mo shouted. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang did not hesitate. He turned his palm, and a drop of scarlet essence blood appeared in his palm. Chapter 2845. Four-sided vibration. What appeared in Jian Wushuang's palm was the most complete blood essence that his perfect chaotic creature possessed. Because he had come to look for Lord Mo, in order to merge his blood essence into the Blood Mountain Sword, he had prepared his blood essence. This drop of blood essence was completely different from the one he had taken out in order to see Lord Mo. Lord Emo had been using the holy heavenly furnace for 9 days and 9 nights, so he was mentally exhausted, but his consciousness was very clear. He had also been staring at Jian Wushuang, wondering what level of blood essence Jian Wushuang had prepared for the most perfect magic weapon. Could it be the blood essence of a special life? Lord Emo was indeed a little curious. So when Jian Wushuang took out the blood essence, he immediately looked over. But when he saw the blood essence in Jian Wushuang's hand, Lord Emo was stunned. That drop of blood essence. Lord Mo's eyes were like 2 lanterns, staring at the drop of blood essence in Jian Wushuang's palm. Even from a certain distance, he could still feel how pure and powerful the drop of blood essence was. How is it possible? It's dozens of times purer than the drop of blood essence of the special life I received before, or even hundreds of times purer. This. Lord Emo was completely stunned, or rather completely stunned. He had met Jian Wushuang because of the drop of blood essence that Jian Wushuang had brought. He was sure that the drop of blood essence was from a special life form. It was much purer than the blood essence of many bloodline races in the divine beginning world. That was what he had always dreamed of. But now he found that the drop of blood essence that he had dreamed of was like the sky and the earth compared to the drop that Jian Wushuang had brought out. It was too pure. Lord Emo had never thought that there was such pure essence blood between heaven and earth. The previous drop was the essence blood of a special life, and it should be very strong among special life forms. This drop of essence blood seems to be 100 times purer than that one. What level is this essence blood? Lord Emo was stunned. At this time, Jian Wushuang had already waved his hand, and this drop of pure and perfect essence blood was immediately thrown toward the holy heavenly furnace. When the essence blood fell into the holy heavenly furnace, it was quite calm at first, but this calm only lasted for a moment. Buzz! A loud and clear sword cry suddenly sounded. The sword cry was extremely ear-piercing. It went along the passage of the volcano above, and instantly shot to the 9 heavens, resounding throughout the entire sky. The entire world was stunned by this ear-piercing sword chime. In the next moment, a sword intent suddenly erupted from the holy heavenly furnace. This sword's intent was not that majestic or that powerful. However, the level of this sword intent, or more accurately, the will contained within the sword intent, was enough to shock the heavens. It was a supreme sword intent that looked down on the world, and looked down on all living beings as ants. It represented the peak of Sword Tao, the pinnacle of Sword Tao, and also the pinnacle of Sword Tao. Supreme! Buzz! The supreme sword intent shot into the sky, and spread out unscrupulously. The area it spread out was extremely wide. The Dragon Phoenix Sacred City had always been under the control of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. At this moment, in the deepest part of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's nest, in an ancient secret room, an old man dressed in a yellow Taoist robe was sitting cross-legged on a praying mat. His eyes were closed as he meditated quietly. However, when that supreme sword intent swept out without restraint, the old man instantly sensed it, even though he was hundreds of millions of kilometers away. Immediately, the old man's eyes suddenly opened, revealing a pair of deep eyes that pierced through the secret chamber and looked into the distance. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 figures appeared in the secret chamber almost immediately. The auras of these 2 people were ethereal, but they were far superior to divine masters. They were clearly 2 true undying saints. However, these 2 undying saints were clearly in awe of the aged old man sitting on the futon. What's happening in that direction? The aged old man asked faintly. That direction should be where the Fire Cloud Castle is. I received news a few days ago that Old Man Emo has already started to refine treasures. This time, he even used the sacred heavenly furnace to refine them. From the looks of it, he should have refined an extraordinary treasure, a woman in green said. It seems so. However, the Fire Cloud Castle is extremely far away from our Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. The treasure that Old Man Emo refined over there actually has a great deterrent effect on us, who are hundreds of millions of miles away. What exactly did he refine? The old man narrowed his eyes slightly. Immediately get someone to investigate carefully and find out what he refined. Also, Elder Qin, you have to make a trip there yourself. All right. The green-robed woman nodded slightly. With a flash of her figure, she disappeared from the secret chamber. This was a nameless mountain peak in Dragon Phoenix Sacred City. A handsome and cold man was standing on the peak. This cold and handsome man looked very young, but his silver-white hair almost reached his waist. His figure was also ethereal, and his aura seemed to be indistinct. However, his eyes were bright and full of spirit, as if they were exploding. At this moment, this cold and handsome man with silver-white hair looked directly into the distant void. Sword intent, what a sword intent! This sword intent must have come from a place billions of miles away, an extremely distant place. It's clearly not too powerful, but the will contained in the sword intent actually made me want to submit. With such a terrifying sword intent, could it be that a true treasure has been born in that place? The silver-haired man muttered to himself, and his voice was also illusory. Supreme treasure? Master, where did you say a supreme treasure was born? Next to the handsome man was a teenager, who looked to be only 15 or 16 years old. This teenager carried a long sword on his back, and held one in his hand. When he heard the former's words, he immediately became excited. Shut up, the handsome man berated. That sword intent is supreme. It has a certain effect on you right now. Calm down and carefully sense it. With your current sword Dao cultivation, it's very difficult for you to sense the existence of that sword intent. However, as long as you sense even a little bit of it, your sword Dao cultivation will be able to increase by a lot. Can you improve your swordsmanship cultivation? The 15-year-old stared at him, his interest immediately piqued. Then, he sat cross-legged next to him, and began to meditate and experience it. Chapter 2846. Hungry? The supreme sword intent contained within the ear-piercing sword chime was earth-shattering. The commotion it caused was simply too great. In the sacred dragon and Phoenix City, those who stood at the peak were all alarmed, and their gazes all focused on the Fire Cloud Castle. They all knew that a great change had occurred within the Fire Cloud Castle. However, although the top super existences were shocked, the ordinary cultivators were not affected except for those around Fire Cloud Castle. They did not even notice the change. Fire Cloud Castle, at the bottom of the largest volcano. This sword essence is so high level. Jian Wushuang was still standing outside the Fire Sea. In the holy heavenly furnace at the center of the Fire Sea, he could clearly feel the shocking sword essence from the Blood Mountain sword. Naturally, he was even more shocked. A single drop of blood essence is not the limit of this divine sword. My friend, do you still have blood essence? Lord Mo, who was standing beside the holy heavenly furnace, looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang did not say anything. With a flip of his hand, 2 more drops of blood essence appeared in his hand. Looking at these 2 drops of blood essence, Lord Mo's pupils suddenly shrank. These 2 drops of blood essence were clearly the same as the one that had just been dropped into the holy heavenly furnace. Go! Jian Wushuang sent the second drop of blood essence into the holy heavenly furnace. In an instant, the supreme sword essence that had already been extremely powerful burst out from the holy heavenly furnace, once again soared. And it soared several times. Seeing this scene, Jian Wushuang did not stop, and continued to send the third drop of blood essence into the holy heavenly furnace. After the blood essence was absorbed by the Blood Mountain sword, the sword essence that burst out from the Blood Mountain sword soared to another level. Hasn't it reached its limit? Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. He was connected to the Blood Mountain sword's heart blood, so he could clearly sense the desire of the Blood Mountain sword. It was obvious that the Blood Mountain sword wanted more. It wanted more of his essence blood. However, this made Jian Wushuang worried. After all, there was not a lot of essence blood like ordinary blood. Essence blood required a long time for a cultivator to accumulate and condense. It took a lot of time. When he was refining the golden armor in the Witch Desert Wilderness, Jian Wushuang knew that he would be able to use his essence blood to fuse with the Blood Mountain sword. Therefore, he began to condense and accumulate his essence blood. Even so, he had only condensed 4 drops of essence blood. He had diluted 1 drop of the 4 drops of essence blood into 100 drops. The quality was not up to standard. He had given the remaining 3 drops to the Blood Mountain sword, but they still could not meet the requirements of the sword. There is no more complete blood essence. Try the defective one. Jian Wushuang immediately waved his hand and took out a jade bottle, which contained drops of broken blood essence. Each drop was no better than the one given to Lord Emo. Master Emo was shocked to see this. Then Jian Wushuang threw the drops of essence blood into the holy heavenly furnace. However, when the essence blood was thrown into the holy heavenly furnace, it only made the flames in the holy heavenly furnace abnormally strong. Jian Wushuang found that the Blood Mountain sword did not absorb the essence blood at all. It could have absorbed it, but it deliberately did not. It was as if the Blood Mountain sword despised the blood essence. Yes, it despised it. The Blood Mountain sword had absorbed 3 drops of perfect blood essence in a row. How could it be willing to absorb the defective blood essence? This little thing. Jian Wushuang felt bitter in his heart. He did not continue to throw the blood essence into the Blood Mountain sword. It was purely a waste. The Blood Mountain sword did not absorb it at all. Sword 1. Do you have the higher level blood essence from before? Lord Emo looked at Jian Wushuang. I only have 3 drops, and I have used them all. However, my magic weapon has not absorbed it to its limit. Its intelligence tells me that it is still very hungry. Jian Wushuang said. Very hungry? Lord Emo frowned. Then he said in a low voice, the weapon spirit of your magic sword is very smart. After absorbing the 3 drops of essence blood, it no longer cares about the other essence blood. Now it's impossible to absorb the essence blood for it. Why don't you try to absorb some other treasures, such as some genius earthly treasures? Genius earthly treasures? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. And then he took out the 12,000-pound Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal. This Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal should be the most precious genius earthly treasure in his hands. It was extremely expensive and could be exchanged for 1.5 million saint elixirs. If it were any other time, Jian Wushuang would not be willing to take it out. But now, he was not stingy with the Blood Mountain sword, which had been with him for God knows how many years. Without any hesitation, Jian Wushuang threw the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal into the holy heavenly furnace. After the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal entered the holy heavenly furnace, Jian Wushuang immediately found that the Blood Mountain sword had begun to absorb the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal. Sure enough, it's not interested in blood essence, but it's interested in other treasures. A smile appeared on Jian Wushuang's face. Little guy, eat up. Eat more. The more you eat, the stronger your power will be. Jian Wushuang was full of expectation. However, this expectation only lasted for a moment, and then he was stunned. The 12,000-pound Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal that he threw into the holy heavenly furnace had been completely devoured by the Blood Mountain sword. But the Blood Mountain sword sent him a message. He was still very hungry. Is he still hungry? Jian Wushuang said with a bitter face. The Blood Wilderness Emperor crystal is already the most precious treasure in my hands. As for the other treasures that can be given to you, although there are some, they are not very valuable. You can eat them yourself. With a wave of his hand, Jian Wushuang took out one treasure after another and threw them directly at the holy heavenly furnace. Over the years, he had fought everywhere, killed countless experts, and even killed many great divine masters. These experts had all kinds of treasures on them, so naturally, there were many natural treasures. Jian Wushuang put all these natural treasures together. He had planned to sell all of them in the future in exchange for some holy elixirs. But now, in order to satisfy the Blood Mountain sword, he threw all these natural treasures into the holy heavenly furnace without any pity. As soon as the treasures entered the holy heavenly furnace, the higher level ones were immediately devoured by the Blood Mountain sword. As for the lower level ones, the Blood Mountain sword did not bother with them at all. He has a big appetite, and he is very crafty. Jian Wushuang could not help but sigh when he saw this scene. After a long time, all the treasures in Jian Wushuang's body had been thrown into the holy heavenly furnace. However, they still could not satisfy the Blood Mountain sword's appetite. Chapter 2847 was done. After absorbing 3 drops of perfect blood essence and devouring so many treasures, including a 12,000-pound blood wilderness emperor crystal, you still can't satisfy your appetite? Jian Wushuang smiled bitterly. He had nothing left for the Blood Mountain sword to continue devouring. At this moment Lord Mo, who had been standing beside the holy heavenly furnace, frowned slightly. Then, he flipped his hand and took out all kinds of treasures from his interspatial ring. Lord Mo. Jian Wushuang was surprised. Lord Mo did not pay much attention to Jian Wushuang. He just kept throwing those treasures into the holy heavenly furnace. But Lord Mo was the #1 blacksmith in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. He was also a powerful immortal saint who was rich, especially in all kinds of materials and treasures. Therefore, under Jian Wushuang's shocked gaze, Lord Mo took out one after another precious materials and treasures. Each of these treasures was extraordinary. Many of them were priceless. There were several treasures that were comparable to the Blood Wilderness Emperor Crystal, and some were even more precious. In addition, there were some treasures that Jian Wushuang did not know and could not name. However, they were obviously extraordinary treasures. Lord Mo threw them into the holy heavenly furnace, and all the treasures that he threw into it were devoured by the Blood Mountain sword on the spot. Jian Wushuang saw them and could not help but feel sorry for Lord Mo. However, Lord Mo's expression was very calm, as if what was thrown into the holy heavenly furnace were not priceless treasures, but just pieces of ordinary firewood. After nearly half an hour, Lord Mo had thrown at least hundreds of treasures into the holy heavenly furnace. The Blood Mountain sword finally stopped absorbing. Finally full? Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and stared at the holy heavenly furnace. Buzz! There was still a loud sword chime. The sword chime also carried a supreme sword essence. But the difference was that this sword's intent was more than 10 times stronger than the previous sword's intent. This sword intent truly shook the past and the present. Inside and outside the Fire Cloud Castle, countless cultivators stood there in shock. Feeling the sword intent that had increased by more than 10 times, they were all stunned. In the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, the weathered old man had already stood up. With his hands behind his back, he looked in the direction of the Fire Cloud Castle, but his frown deepened. On the nameless peak, the silver-haired handsome man narrowed his eyes. The youth who had been sitting cross-legged by the side was suddenly overjoyed. "Master, I can sense it, I can sense it. There's nothing to be proud of," the handsome man said in a low voice. "If you could sense it before, it would be considered powerful. But now, that sword intent has increased by dozens of times. If you can't sense it again, you're not qualified to be my disciple." Hearing this, the young man curled his lips, but he did not know what to say. Under the huge volcano. Is it done? Lord Mo was a little excited, even more excited than Jian Wushuang. He stared at the holy heavenly furnace in front of him, and then made a few more handprints. The purple-black flames around the holy heavenly furnace swept crazily, and a magic sword slowly rose from the holy heavenly furnace. Condense! Lord Mo struck out his last hand seal. The supreme sword essence emitted by the divine sword was instantly withdrawn, and the light on the long sword slowly faded. The Blood Mountain sword also returned to its original appearance. As Jian Wushuang waved his hand, the Blood Mountain sword immediately rushed toward Jian Wushuang, and was once again in Jian Wushuang's hand. As soon as he held the sword, he immediately noticed that it was different from before. Previously, although the Blood Mountain sword was his natal magic weapon, and connected with his heart and blood, it was not perfect. But now, Jian Wushuang felt that the Blood Mountain sword was completely one with him. It was as if the Blood Mountain sword was already a part of his body, like his hands and feet. He could use it perfectly. As expected, after merging with my blood essence, my control of the Blood Mountain sword has become even more perfect. Moreover, after absorbing 3 drops of my perfect blood essence, and devouring so many rare and precious treasures, the power of the Blood Mountain sword should have been greatly enhanced. Jian Wushuang slightly tightened his grip on the divine sword. Then he carefully examined the Blood Mountain sword. Just as he had expected, the power of the Blood Mountain sword had been greatly enhanced. Previously, The power of the Blood Mountain sword in his hand was only at the superior heavenly treasure level. But now, although he had not really attacked, Jian Wushuang could still feel that the true power of the Blood Mountain sword had reached the level of a holy treasure. And it was definitely much stronger than an ordinary holy treasure. Most importantly, Jian Wushuang found that the sword edge of the Blood Mountain sword had become sharper. To be exact, it was extremely sharp. This sword edge. Jian Wushuang touched the sword edge with his fingers. He had an illusion that as long as the Blood Mountain sword exerted a little force, his palm would be directly cut off. No matter how strong his protective ability was, or what kind of defensive means he had on the surface of his body. Jian Wushuang even subconsciously felt that even if the cultivator in front of him was wearing a body protection armor at the level of holy treasure, the sword edge of the Blood Mountain sword was enough to tear apart the body protection armor at the level of holy treasure. Then he continued to kill his opponent. It was this sharp feeling that could tear apart and cut through all obstacles. As for how sharp it was, Jian Wushuang had to experience real combat and kill a cultivator with the Blood Mountain sword before he knew. Its power has become much stronger, and its blade is much sharper than before. Compared to before, the transformation of the Blood Mountain sword is indeed huge, but that should not be all. Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. The Blood Mountain sword had fused with 3 drops of his perfect blood essence. According to the effect of 3 drops of blood essence, it should be more than that. Jian Wushuang immediately continued to study it. As he studied it, he soon found the deepest thing hidden in the Blood Mountain sword. This is sword essence. Jian Wushuang's expression had become extremely stunned. It was not his fault, because he felt the existence of a sword essence in the Blood Mountain sword. This sword essence was none other than the supreme sword essence that the Blood Mountain sword had wantonly released. That sword intent was not too strong, but it was too detached. It was so detached that it made one's hair stand on end. But this sword intent was completely preserved in the Blood Mountain sword. Chapter 2848. 8th grade. This sword essence. Jian Wushuang carefully felt the sword essence. He could see that it had completely integrated into the Blood Mountain sword and became a part of it. As the master of the Blood Mountain sword, he could naturally use this sword essence. Jian Wushuang immediately tried to communicate with the sword essence, trying to guide it. But in the end, he only managed to guide a bit of the sword essence. This sword essence is too extraordinary. With my current comprehension of sword principle, it seems very difficult to guide this sword essence. Jian Wushuang frowned but soon relaxed. There's no rush. This sword essence has just merged with the Blood Mountain sword. I'll study it when I have time. Jian Wushuang exhaled slightly, but a smile appeared on his face. In general, he was very satisfied with the transformation of the Blood Mountain sword, especially the supreme sword essence in the Blood Mountain sword. Jian Wushuang had a feeling that it would be very useful to him. After briefly checking the changes in the Blood Mountain sword, Jian Wushuang looked at Lord Mo again. However, at the sight of Lord Mo, Jian Wushuang's expression became strange. After the refinement and the transformation of the Blood Mountain sword, Lord Mo closed his eyes and stood there without moving. It seemed that he had understood something. Jian Wushuang also knew this, so he just stood quietly by the side and did not disturb him. After a long time, Lord Mo, who was standing motionlessly, suddenly opened his eyes. The moment he opened his eyes, an unprecedentedly fierce light turned into 2 bolts of lightning and suddenly shot out. Lord Mo's expression also instantly became pleasantly surprised. Haha, I finally made it. After so many years, I finally made it. God really treats me well. Lord Mo laughed loudly with a hint of madness in his voice. This madness was completely caused by surprise and joy. Jian Wushuang stood aside and listened, but his expression changed. He could see that Lord Mo was so pleasantly surprised because he had made a breakthrough. And the breakthrough was not about strength, right? Lord Mo, what are you? Jian Wushuang said. My friend Sword One. I have to thank you and the magic weapon in your hand. Lord Mo smiled and said, I have become a 7th grade weapon refiner, and even reached the peak of the 7th grade. I haven't had the chance to advance for many years. It has been too long. I have dreamed of taking that step and becoming a true 8th grade weapon refiner. After all, the path of weapon refining is different from cultivation. The peak of the 8th and 7th grades may seem like a step away, but they are two completely different levels. They are two completely different worlds. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, I once met a true 8th grade weapon refiner. At that time, I was completely convinced by his weapon refining methods. I even wanted to become his disciple, but that person was only a low-grade 8th grade weapon refiner. I really yearned for that level, but unfortunately, that step is extremely difficult. Other cultivators encounter their own bottlenecks, and it is much more difficult. Moreover, there are no shortcuts. I have been stuck on this step for so many years. I originally thought that I would never be able to break through again in this lifetime. But today, I broke through. I finally took that step and became a true 8th grade weapon refiner. Lord Mo's laughter reverberated throughout the entire open space. It was indeed filled with joy. Jian Wushuang nodded secretly when he heard it. He guessed that Lord Mo's breakthrough was not due to his own strength. Perhaps his strength had also improved, but what truly made him so ecstatic, and even made him disregard his status at the peak, it could only be a breakthrough in the weapon refining Tao. As expected, Lord Mo was a top 7th grade weapon refiner, and he had truly reached the 8th grade. 8th grade weapon refiner was an extremely respected figure even in the vast third heaven, not to mention in the remote territory of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Congratulations, Lord Mo, Jian Wushuang said, congratulating him. This time, I can advance one step further by refining again. Thanks to your help. You don't need to call me Master Mo anymore. My name is Mo Tao. If you don't mind, you can call me Brother Mo, Mo Tao said. This, Jian Wushuang was a bit surprised. What? Do you think I'm not good enough for you? Mo Tao pretended to be unhappy. I wouldn't dare, Brother Mo. Jian Wushuang quickly changed the way he addressed him. That's more like it. Mo Tao smiled again, feeling very happy. In fact, if it was an ordinary person, even some powerful immortal saints, Mo Tao's strength and identity might not be taken seriously. As for calling him brother, it was even more impossible. The reason why Mo Tao was willing to make friends with Jian Wushuang in such a way was that Jian Wushuang had indeed helped him a great deal this time, which made him very surprised. Secondly, he also saw that Jian Wushuang was extraordinary. From the beginning, when Jian Wushuang took out the drop of blood essence, which made him think that it was the blood essence of a special life, he had already seen that Jian Wushuang, an advanced great divine master, was not simple. However, when Jian Wushuang took out the Blood Mountain sword, Mo Tao felt even more incredulous. As for what really shocked him, it was the 3 drops of blood essence that Jian Wushuang took out one after another during the refining process. The 3 drops of blood essence were completely beyond Mo Tao's understanding. However, he could see that the 3 drops of blood essence did not come from any other place, but Jian Wushuang's own blood essence. Who was Jian Wushuang to have condensed such incredible essence blood that was completely beyond his knowledge? Mo Tao did not know. He could not even guess it, but he knew that Jian Wushuang's origin must be shocking. Under such circumstances, how could he dare to put on any airs? Similarly, he did not dare to put on airs, which was why this scene happened. My friend Sword 1, after refining, absorbing 3 drops of your blood essence and so many treasures, your sword must have changed a lot. How does it feel? Mo Tao asked. It's a big change, and it feels good, but how much has changed? I have to find time to study it. Jian Wushuang smiled. Your sword has an amazing origin and great potential, Mo Tao said with a sigh. I have refined many divine weapons for many years, including many natal divine weapons. The natal divine weapons I have refined can at least become supreme grade holy treasures in the future. If I'm lucky, they might even become supreme treasures in the future. Chapter 2849. Potential. Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Magic weapons and treasures were divided into earthly treasures, heavenly treasures, holy treasures, and legendary supreme treasures. Among them, earthly treasures and heavenly treasures were only ordinary to the top, but at the level of holy treasures, the division was even more obvious. Holy treasures were divided into third grade, second grade, first grade, and supreme grade holy treasures. Each level was also divided from ordinary to the top. For example, the holy treasure level saber that Jian Wushuang had gotten from the secret realm and given to Yin Suer to handle was only a third grade holy treasure. The Blood Mountain sword in Jian Wushuang's hand, in terms of power, should be at the top of the third grade, barely reaching the second grade. However, because of the sharpness of the Blood Mountain sword, it would be more effective in Jian Wushuang's hand than many second-grade holy treasures. As for the potential mentioned by Mo Tao, any natal magic weapon had potential. This potential depended on many factors, such as the materials used to refine it, the level of the blacksmith, the strength of the blood essence, and so on. The greater the potential, the greater the room for the natal magic weapon to grow in the future. For example, the golden armor that Jian Wushuang had refined from Master Kuan, a fourth-grade weapon refiner, in the which desert waste domain was only limited to an ordinary waste domain. The materials used to refine it was very ordinary, so a fourth-grade weapon refiner's standard was naturally not that high, even if the golden armor had undergone a substantial transformation and possessed a certain potential because of the integration of Jian Wushuang's own blood essence. According to Jian Wushuang's estimation, it would at most reach the level of a supreme-grade holy treasure. In other words, no matter how much Jian Wushuang's strength increased in the future, the golden armor would at most reach the level of a supreme-grade holy treasure. It was impossible for it to become a legendary supreme-grade holy treasure unless it was reforged. This was the potential of a natal weapon. Mo Tao used to be a top-notch 7th-grade blacksmith. When he forged a natal weapon, the materials used to forge it was also very rare. Naturally, the natal weapons he forged had extraordinary potential. Even the weakest could reach the level of a supreme-grade holy treasure. This could already be considered very impressive. The strongest treasure that I refined before was something that the Bone Emperor asked me to refine. That treasure has great potential. As long as the Bone Emperor's own strength can reach it, he has a chance to become a supreme-grade treasure. Unfortunately, that treasure of the Bone Emperor is far, far inferior to this divine sword of yours. Mo Tao sighed. This magic weapon of yours has no flaws. It's the most perfect natal magic weapon. Now that it's fused with your 3 drops of essence blood, its potential has been stimulated. In the future, as long as you keep up with your strength, it can continue to grow and become a supreme treasure, even a top-notch supreme treasure. Moreover, this is far from the limit of your magic sword. Oh, Jian Wushuang looked at Mo Tao. Sword 1. You should have noticed that the essence blood you have absorbed during the refining process is far from the true requirements of your magic sword, Mo Tao said. I noticed. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. During the refining process, he had only absorbed 3 drops of his own essence blood for the Blood Mountain sword, which was obviously not the limit of the sword. However, he had already used up his own essence blood. He had intended to use the diluted essence blood to replace it. Who knew that the Blood Mountain sword's appetite was so bad that it no longer cared about the low-end blood essence. Therefore, in the end, he could only feed the Blood Mountain sword with a large number of weapon-making materials and some natural treasures. Those weapon-making materials and natural treasures are just to satisfy your sword's appetite, but you haven't really developed the sword. Therefore, there is still a lot of room for your sword's potential in the future. Of course, the prerequisite is that you have more blood essence, Mo Tao said. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang smiled. He also saw that there was still room for further development of the Blood Mountain sword. However, the Blood Mountain sword was only interested in his perfect blood essence. However, it was not easy to condense his blood essence. He needed a lot of time to accumulate it. Moreover, he was only a divine master, so it did not take him too long to condense his blood essence. However, as his realm continued to improve, and the strength of his divine power continued to increase, it would become more difficult to condense his blood essence. When that time came, Just condensing a drop of blood essence. It would take thousands of years to condense a drop of blood essence. At that time, it would not be easy for him to accumulate enough blood essence for the Blood Mountain Sword. Not only do you need enough blood essence, but after this refinement, it will be impossible for me, a mere 8th grade blacksmith, to infuse blood essence into the sword again. Even a 9th grade blacksmith might not be able to do so. Therefore, you can only go to the 3rd heaven and look for rare blacksmiths who have surpassed the 9th grade. They might have a way, Emotao said. So troublesome? Jian Wushuang frowned. After all, the accumulation of blood essence only needed time, and he could accept it. But to merge the blood essence into the Blood Mountain Sword again, he needed a weapon refiner of the 9th grade and above. The highest level of weapon refining was the 9th grade. The primordial divine world was vast, and there might be weapon refiners above the 9th grade, but it was not easy to find them. Even if he found them, it would be very difficult to get them to agree to help him refine weapons. It would also be extremely difficult. There's no rush. The current potential of the Blood Mountain Sword is enough for me. As for further improvement, I'll think of something later when my strength continues to increase, and I have sufficient capital. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. My young friend Sword One, there's something. Emotao continued to look at Jian Wushuang, but he wanted to say something, but he hesitated, and his expression was clearly a little awkward. Brother Emo, what's the matter? Just tell me, Jian Wushuang said. It's like this. I saw that you took out a lot of blood essence during the refining process, and the purity of the blood essence seems to be the same as the drop you gave me. If I'm not wrong, you used your own blood essence to decompose the blood essence, right? Emotao asked. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. Well, do you have any more of this decomposed blood essence? Emotao looked at Jian Wushuang eagerly. Seeing Emotao's expression, Jian Wushuang instantly understood what he wanted. Brother Emo, do you want this blood essence? I do have some. Jian Wushuang waved his hand, and one jade bottle after another appeared. The jade bottle contained drops of essence blood that were less than 1% of his original purity. Chapter 2850. Conditions previously, Jian Wushuang had diluted his perfect essence blood to a total of 100 drops. He had a total of 100 drops of essence blood, although he had given 1 drop to Emotao and wasted some during the refining process. He still had enough. Now he had taken out 10 drops. Looking at the essence of blood, Emotao's eyes immediately became fiery. My friend, can you give me some of this essence blood? Of course, I want to take it for free. If you have any conditions, feel free to ask. I will try my best to satisfy you, Emotao said. Brother Emo, this essence blood is not very useful to me. Since you want it, I will give you 10 more drops. Jian Wushuang smiled, and directly threw the 10 jade bottles to Emotao. This is too much. Emotao took the jade bottles, and looked at the drops of essence blood that he could not get even in his dreams. He was very excited. After a while he took 8 bottles. He returned the other 2 bottles to Jian Wushuang. 8 drops, plus the previous one, 9 drops of this essence blood is enough. Emotao said with a smile. Brother Emo, don't be polite with me. I do have a lot of essence blood like this, Jian Wushuang said and waved his hand again. Immediately, more jade bottles appeared. Looking at these jade bottles, the corner of Emotao's mouth twitched slightly. He once wanted to get a drop of essence blood like this, but he could not get it no matter how much he paid. But now, seeing Jian Wushuang take out such a drop of blood essence, it was as if he was taking something that could be easily seen. Naturally, he was not happy. 9 drops of blood essence is indeed enough. Any more and the blood essence would not be precious, Emotao said. Any one of these 9 drops of blood essence is worth more than 1,000,000 saint elixirs. I took 9 drops at one go, which is equivalent to tens of millions of saint elixirs. But I don't know what conditions you have. If I can do it, I will try my best to satisfy you. No need. Jian Wushuang shook his head and smiled. Brother Emo, you have already merged your blood essence into my magic weapon for me. In the process of refining it, You have also spent a lot of materials and treasures to satisfy its appetite. That's enough for the 9 drops of blood essence. That's different. The materials and treasures used in the process of refining the magic weapon are of great use to me. Because of that, I was lucky enough to break through to become an 8th grade weapon refiner. This is more important to me than the treasures I used. Now I can't take your blood essence for free, Emotao said. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang could not help smiling bitterly. How about this, my friend Sword 1? Do you have any treasures at the level of holy treasure that you can use? If you do, I will make another one for you. I will provide you with the materials and various things you need to make the magic weapon. You just need to tell me what you want, Emotao said. This? Jian Wushuang frowned and pondered for a moment. Then he raised his head again. I already have my natal magic weapon and natal armor, so I don't need them for the time being. If Brother Emo really feels bad, you can make a domain-type treasure for me. Domain-type treasure? Emotao's expression changed. Yes. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. He had many skills, and one of the most powerful was his domain. He had a total of 4 domains, and when they worked together, they were extremely powerful. Especially during the battle between the 2 camps, his domain skill was enough to change the situation of the entire battlefield. However, the domain-type treasure, the Golden Feather Illusionary Light Mirror, was only a top-tier heavenly treasure. Although its power was quite impressive, as Jian Wushuang encountered stronger opponents, the effect of this domain was greatly reduced. Naturally, Jian Wushuang wanted a more powerful holy treasure. That way, his many domains would be terrifying. Domain-type treasures are the most complicated and difficult among all the treasures. If I had not taken this step before, I would have to activate the Holy Heavenly Furnace to refine a decent domain-type holy treasure. But now, even without the Holy Heaven Furnace, I can still refine it. However, I need some time to prepare the materials. I'm afraid I can't refine it in a short time, Emotao said. There's no hurry, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. In that case, I'll have to ask you to wait a little longer, Emotao said with a smile. Then he continued. In addition, although domain-type holy treasures are precious, their prices are still far inferior to those 9 drops of essence blood. So, how about this? I'll add 2 million holy elixirs to this domain-type holy treasure for you, okay? 2 million holy elixirs? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Sure. This time, he did not choose to refuse. Instead, he directly agreed. After all, he needed holy elixirs. He needed a large number of holy elixirs to improve his realm. After all, his current realm was only that of a peak divine master. Previously, he had planned to get rid of the 12,000 pounds of Blood Wilderness Emperor crystals while refining the Blood Mountain Sword. That way, he could get a large number of holy elixirs to break through. He did not expect that the Blood Mountain Sword would directly swallow the Blood Wilderness Emperor crystals during the refining process. Besides the treasure he needed, all the other treasures in his hands had been used up. He really did not have much wealth. At this critical moment, Emotao agreed to give him 2 million holy elixirs. This was tantamount to timely help. Jian Wushuang certainly would not refuse. Emotao took out an interspatial ring and handed it to Jian Wushuang. There are 2 million saint elixirs in this interspatial ring, and my communication token. When I am ready to refine the domain-type holy treasure, I will send a message to you. No problem. Jian Wushuang smiled and gave the result of the interspatial ring. By the way, Emotao said, Sword 1, the blood essence in your hand is extremely valuable, especially your own blood essence. It is even more incredible, but don't take it out in the future, and don't be stupid enough to sell it for saint elixirs or other treasures. If you are not careful, you might even be killed. Yes, I know. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. Of course, he knew that the blood essence was very important, especially his own blood essence, the most perfect blood essence. If it really spread, it would attract many experts. Chapter 2851. Troublesome because he knew this. He had only used 1% of his blood essence after diluting it in order to meet Emotao. and he had only taken out 1 drop, until he had no way to take out his perfect blood essence in order to fuse it into the Blood Mountain sword, and only in front of Mo Tao. As for selling his blood essence in exchange for a large number of holy elixirs or other treasures, if it was the decomposed blood essence, he could try 1 or 2 drops, but there were too many of them, and he would never sell them. As for his own blood essence, he would never give it to anyone. Blood essence was a symbol of life. Therefore, selling blood essence was a violation of one's dignity. No one, no expert of any bloodline, would sell their essence blood or give it to others unless they were really at the end of their rope. Mo Tao wanted to say something, but suddenly his expression changed, and he frowned slightly. Sword 1, we are in trouble, Mo Tao said. What's wrong? Jian Wushuang looked over. You know how loud the noise was when we were refining the weapon, especially the supreme sword essence. It was so loud that some old men in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and a few top experts of sword principle sensed it. As for the surroundings of my Fire Cloud Castle, they are all guessing that I should have refined a great sword principle weapon or treasure. Even the Bone Emperor sent a message to me personally, Mo Tao said with a bitter smile. Bone Emperor sent a message personally? Jian Wushuang was stunned. He knew that the disturbance caused by the artifact refinement would definitely attract the attention of some experts. However, he did not expect that Bone Emperor would be alerted and ask about it personally. It's normal for Bone Emperor to ask about it personally. After all, he was the only one who asked me to refine a treasure using the Holy Heavenly Furnace for so many years. So this time, of course, he wants to know who asked me to refine a treasure using the Holy Heavenly Furnace and what level of magic weapon it is. Mo Tao smiled. It's just a casual question from Bone Emperor. I just need to find a reason to tell him about it. The trouble is that the experts who have arrived in my Fire Cloud Castle will definitely find out about it. They might even find a way to find out about it. By then they might be able to trace it back to you. Jian Wushuang's face darkened. He had come to look for Mo Tao to refine a treasure. If it was just an ordinary treasure, it would be fine. However, the commotion this time was so big. Once people found out that he had asked Mo Tao to refine a treasure, all the experts would definitely target him. By then there would be a lot of trouble. Mo Tao naturally knew of this. So he immediately sent a message to his personal disciple Bai Yan. Not long after, Bai Yan arrived at this empty space. Master. Bai Yan was incomparably respectful in front of Mo Tao. Disciple, how is the situation in the Fire Cloud Castle right now? Mo Tao directly asked. Replying, Master, ever since you activated the sacred heavenly furnace and started to refine a weapon, the entire Fire Cloud Castle has been shaken. The various powers also quickly received the news. The world overlords of the 4 pavilions, the various realm lords of the various realm verses, as well as the rulers of some of the major powers in the Golden Crow 9 realms, all sent messages to ask me about the cause of this matter. However, I only gave them a few words of prevarication and didn't explain it to them. These people are just here to ask questions, but some experts from the Dragon Phoenix Sacred City have come to visit, especially a Supreme Elder from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, Bai Yan said. A Supreme Elder from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. The Dragon Phoenix Pavilion was one of the 4 pavilions, and its geniuses were as numerous as clouds. To be able to become a Supreme Elder, he must be a genuine immortal saint. How many people in the Fire Cloud Castle know that Sword 1 came to see me? Mo Tao asked. There should only be 4 people who know about it, Bai Yan said solemnly. The first one is a guard at the level of a novice Great Divine Master. He brought Mr. Sword 1 into the Fire Cloud Castle. Kill him, Mo Tao said directly. Bai Yan and Jian Wushuang were both stunned. The former nodded slightly, then he said, the second one is Junior Brother Fan Xian. I thought that Sword 1 was just an ordinary advanced Great Divine Master, so I let Junior Brother Fan Xian pick him up. It was not until Mr. Sword 1 took out the 12,000 pounds of Blood Wilderness Emperor Crystal that I personally went to receive him. Fan Xian? Mo Tao narrowed his eyes. Tell him that from today on, he will go into closed-door cultivation and cannot come out for 10,000 years. Yes. Bai Yan accepted the order and continued, the third one is me. Bai Yan was a little shocked, but he still had some confidence. He was different from the guard and Fan Xian. He was Mo Tao's personal disciple, and could be said to be Mo Tao's successor. Mo Tao would not go so far as to deal with Jian Wushuang in order to cover up his existence, or ask him to enter closed-door cultivation for 10,000 years. As expected, Mo Tao only exhorted him. You should know the severity of the matter. You must not reveal the existence of little friend Sword One. And you must not let anyone know that it was little friend Sword One who asked me to refine that magic weapon. Otherwise, even if you are my personal disciple, I will not show mercy. I understand. Bai Yan heaved a sigh of relief. You just said that there should be 4 people who know of little friend Sword One's existence, but you only said 3. Who else is there? Mo Tao looked over. There's still one more. Bai Yan frowned. Master, the last person who knows of little friend Sword One's existence is young Master Chu. Young Master Chu? Which young Master Chu? Mo Tao asked. He's the young master of the heavenly Chu realm lord. Bai Yan replied softly. It's him. Mo Tao's expression changed. Why would he come to my Fire Cloud Castle, and how would he know about this matter? Replying Master, 16 years later, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion will open the Dragon Phoenix rankings for the young Phoenix. At that time, countless experts would dare to go. And this young Master Chu has a special liking for the young Phoenix of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. He wanted to take the opportunity to send a huge gift to that young Phoenix, in order to gain the favor of that young Phoenix. Hence he specially rushed here. His motive is the same as Mr. Sword One. He also wanted Master to personally refine a special treasure for him. Bai Yan spoke. When Mr. Sword One came to my Fire Cloud Castle, I happened to be in the middle of a conversation with young Master Chu. When the guard came to report, he did not lower his voice. So young Master Chu heard that Mr. Sword One had come to visit. However, when the guard reported, it also showed that Mr. Sword One was only an advanced Great Divine Master. I also instructed Fan Xian to receive him in front of that young Master Chu. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.